Still a lot of potentially exciting things to play for. And if we learned anything 3 years ago, when Utah needed like 7 dynamics to go their way to make it to the Pac-12 championship game, you never know how this stuff is going to play out. Now, I know there is a faction of Utah fans that would rather be 6-6 with a win against BYU than 10-2 with a loss against BYU. I understand that. I think that's antiquated thinking. And is there a way that these two teams could see each other again? What? Consider that possibility. So we'll talk about the latest with the local college football landscape on the program today. We'll continue to dissect how that all went down. Will Devin Dampier be under center on Saturday night against Colorado? Nobody knows. Bird Ficklin might be in line to start after Devin re-aggravated that ankle injury against Brigham Young and Provo last Saturday. So we'll give you the latest there. The forecast for this weekend, not looking great, folks. It's looking okay. It's hanging in. But it is Utah, so you give it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it could change. Rain was in the forecast yesterday. That does not appear to be the case today. But could be a cold, rainy night at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Utah finds themselves as a 13.5-point favorite over the Buffs. So we'll do some college football on the show today. Your Week 7 of the NFL wrapped up with a couple of Monday Night Football games last night. Man, Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay has been playing with fire over the past few weeks, having Baker Mayfield perform miracles to get wins, and that came to an end last night. The Bucs could not run the football. They need Bucky Irving back, and Detroit was very impressive. They could not do anything with Jahmyr Gibbs. 24-9 was your final there. The Lions beat the Bucs. The Seattle Seahawks got a win. It was a tough night for the city of Seattle. The Seattle Mariners are the only team left standing in Major League Baseball that have never played in the World Series, and that streak will continue after the Blue Jays were able to get it done. And they break their own streak of 32 years. They're back in the World Series. I've been saying it all year. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. I don't think it's really even close. But a Game 7 last night, which is always fun. So a couple of Monday Night Football games last night and a Game 7 in the world of Major League Baseball. Your Week 8 of NFL football gets going on Thursday night when the Vikings take on the Chargers. That is at SoFi in Inglewood. And then a big slate of NFL games coming up. The NBA is back, huh? The NBA starts tonight. The Utah Jazz will get going tomorrow. The LA Clippers will be in town for the Jazz to get things going tomorrow. But the new-look Houston Rockets with Kevin Durant on the roster taking on Oklahoma City. That will be on NBC and Peacock. It is a new landscape of NBA basketball consumption, and the NBA is taking a risk as it pertains to alienating fans in the United States. Now, their business model includes tremendous revenue streams overseas in a way that the NFL does not. The NFL is trying to, as you've noticed, they're playing in London. But the NBA is now back with their streaming deal over in China after the Daryl Morey tweet a number of years ago fractured that relationship. It is back where it used to be, which means life is good when it comes to revenue generated by the NBA. Do they give a rip about the consumer? Probably not. Do businesses give a rip about most consumers? Probably not. As a front-facing entertainment product, and if they're making money, life is good for them. The late game is the Warriors and the Lakers. I think LeBron is out because he is a drama queen, or maybe he's hurt. I don't know, one of the two. I don't think LeBron's playing tonight. But Warriors-Lakers get it going, then the Jazz get going tomorrow. So a lot to do on the show. Mammoth are in action tonight at home against Colorado. The Utah Mammoth have won 3 straight. Colorado is a Stanley Cup contending hockey club. RSL, one night away from the elimination game up in Portland tomorrow night at 8:30. It is a late kick in Portland. It is on Apple Television. And it is a win and advance, lose and you're done scenario. So some dramatic scenes for RSL as well. So a lot to do on the show. Our first guest, Chris Camerati from The Athletic, who covers college football. Chris wrote a great story on Kalani. Chris picked BYU to beat Utah. He was right. Chris is usually right, and I hate to say that out loud because he's so smug about it. Is CK in studio today, or is he just over the telephone?
Just on the telly.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with his smugness in person.
No.
Happy 3rd birthday to Leo, CK's little boy. So we'll bring Chris in right off the top. Stevenson Sylvester joins us today to break things down for Utah and BYU. Andy Larson, potentially live in studio. We'll do some Jazz and some RSL with Andy. He also wrote about the Utah-BYU game. And then our friend Blaine Fowler from BYU TV joins us as well. So Busy day on a Tuesday. Chris Comrani, Stevenson, Sylvester, Blaine Fowler, Andy Larson, me, Spence Checketts, that guy, Porter Larson. Tuesday afternoon. Are you ready to put the Holy War behind you and focus on what's ahead, or are we still going to dissect what is behind?
Oh, we're on to Colorado, my friend.
I love the attitude.
We're on to Colorado as of Saturday night. That's one you got to put behind you, as every loss is. But yeah, I think officially, as far as radio world goes, you can stew on it for a day or two, and then you look ahead. You look ahead to what is still an interesting Big 12 slate for both Utah, for BYU, and for the conference at large. It's actually going to be a lot of fun down the stretch. So look ahead and have fun doing so.
Well, I mean, I'm of the understanding that rivalry week is this week, right? With Colorado coming to town. Was it last week or is it this week?
Both.
No,
actually, I don't know that the Colorado game, outside of the 1 year where Utah almost backed in, the first year of the Pac-12, where Colorado, who wasn't very good, knocked Utah off from getting to the Pac-12 title game. This game's never had any stakes or really any tension, so it's not a rivalry. Sorry.
Never has been. It was weird when the Pac-12 was like, hey, Colorado's your rival now. And everyone's like, dude, no, they're not. Sorry.
Maybe they were in the 50s or something, right? I think there was a cross-border thing going on. But rivalries have to have continuity and tradition, and that stopped at a time. So, yeah.
Breaking news, the Big 12 has announced a $50,000 fine of Arizona State for the field storming incident that occurred during Saturday's football game against Texas Tech. Sorry, Arizona State, you don't have a CEO of a powerful cookie company to write checks.
I'm sure they do.
You think so?
Somewhere.
Okay. All right. So our first guest today, CK right out of the gates. But before Chris stops by, courtesy of our good friends and your good friends too at Prize Picks, it's time now for your opening tip.
Welcome to The Drive with Spence Checketts on Utah's #1 sports talk. Now into the studios of ESPN 700 to set the scene for the show. The opening tip of The Drive is brought to you by Prize Picks. Use the code ESPN 700 and run your game with Prize Picks.
NBA basketball is back tonight. You guys already know that Prize Picks is the best place to win cash on football, whether it's the Niners or the Broncos or the Raiders. Well, now that basketball is back, best place to win cash on the Jazz, on the Lakers, on the Warriors, on the Knicks, whoever your favorite team is. So, bottom line, Prize Picks now offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. If you want to pick more on Steph Curry's points, 3-pointers, and assists, now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. You can follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. Step number 1 is you go get their free money. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play that first $5 lineup. Promo code ESPN700 to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup on Prize Picks. It is good to be right. All right, bottom line is this. They're giving you a max discount for the opening night in the NBA tonight. It is Stephen Curry more or less than 0.5 points. My guess is Steph is going to score 1 point tonight. So grab the free money, use the max discount, put it on Steph, and you combine that with one other correct pick, and you can win up to 2,000 times your cash because on Prize Picks, it is always good to be right. All right. So, as we have been discussing, as we talked about yesterday, Saturday night, a lot of interesting fallout from BYU's win over Utah. From the BYU side of things, last year when BYU beat Utah, they then went on to lose 2 straight football games. And it really killed their opportunity to play for a Big 12 championship. So the task for Kalani is simple. You have to make sure that you learn your lesson from a year ago, as opposed to what happened last year, and make sure you handle your business. BYU's schedule the rest of the way is difficult. I can still see them winning 10 football games. But last year, they come up to Salt Lake. They beat Utah 22-21, and then they lay an egg at home to a very average Kansas team. The loss at Arizona State, I mean, look, it's a long season. You're going to get got at some point. The ASU loss, that was a good football team. It was the Kansas loss last year that left BYU fans scratching their heads, and understandably so. So we'll see if BYU can ultimately kind of stay frosty and stay prepared and get ready to handle their business as they travel to Ames to take on Iowa State. BYU is an underdog, but that hasn't mattered with this team this year. They're a 2.5-point underdog to Iowa State on the road. But they've been able to really ignore any sort of game line and just find ways to win football games. They passed every test that's been put in front of them. They're the highest-ranked team in the Big 12. They remain undefeated. They are the 11th-ranked team in the country, and there's a good chance they win 10 games. But the schedule that they have the rest of the way is brutal. Now, for the Utes, the challenge is different, and the challenge is more unique, and it's become a little bit more nuanced than it was prior to. Obviously, you want to make sure that you put the loss behind you, compartmentalize it the best way you possibly can, and handle your business at home against a Colorado team that isn't near as good as they were a year ago. I mean, hell, they had a Heisman Trophy winner and Shedeur Sanders under center. But Witt talked about this during his media availability. The teams that Colorado has lost to are the elite teams in this conference. Utah is a healthy favorite at home. Right now, they're favored by 13.5 points. But the challenge has changed because there's a chance that Bird Ficklin is under center and Devin Dampier will not be playing after re-aggravating that injury against BYU. It's an ankle injury. And look, we've talked about this all year. When it comes to the dynamic of a dual-threat quarterback, you certainly want it in the modern day and age of football as that position has changed. Most of the best teams in college and pro football, most of them, not all of them, but have a quarterback that can run as well as throw the football. And if you're going to let Devin run, you got to understand that teams are going to try to hit him. He took a lot of hits against Brigham Young. I'm not saying that you take that away from him, but the piece of collateral damage potentially is injuries. So Bird Ficklin so far has looked really good, but it's mostly been in cleanup duty. So it might be Bird under center against Colorado this weekend, and Utah looking to bounce back and BYU looking to continue to roll. All right, Chris Kamrani is going to join us coming up on the other side of a quick break. CK covers college football for The Athletic. Been excited for this. My brunch buddy in Bountiful, Dave from America First Credit Union, stops by. What's up, Dave?
Man, it's so good to be here. Appreciate you having me in studio today.
It's good to have you here. So let's just start with what you want our listeners to know, generally speaking, about America First. We're approaching the holidays, and one of the things you guys do is you give back to the community. But just from 30,000 feet, what should our listeners know about what you guys have going on?
Yeah, from 30,000 feet, America First is celebrating our 86th year this year, and we've been around for a very long time. All credit unions have that philosophy of people helping people, and I feel like America First takes that to such an exceptional level of benefiting the communities, looking for programs, supporting those programs, developing our own programs that not only give back to the community but give back to families. First and foremost, we're a financial institution, and so we provide good products and services for our people, but we also want to say, well, how else can we benefit our communities? We get engaged with sports teams and scholarships and food drives and backpack drives, and we want to be where families are because that's where they're strong. And when our communities are strong, then everybody's strong. So we love it.
And I didn't know this prior to our meeting. Your footprint has really grown. I mean, you guys you're a massive company. You're a massive credit union that reaches across multiple states, yeah?
Yeah, from humble beginnings. We started at Fort Douglas. There was 59 individual members who got together and said, hey, let's find a better way to kind of work through our finances. And what's funny, Spence, is how humble they were. They were open for a half an hour once a week, and their first cash register was a Prince Albert tobacco can. Fast forward 86 years, we are now in 6 states, headquartered here in Utah. We're the largest credit union in Utah, but we're in Nevada, we're in Arizona, Idaho, New Mexico, and now California.
That's awesome. So what makes like a credit union, if we have listeners that are frustrated with their banking experience, maybe they don't have great customer service, maybe they look and say, oh, another fee for nothing. What makes you guys different and unique? And let's get a call to action. Why should people look to maybe join the union?
Yeah, that's a great question. Credit unions were started because traditional banking really wasn't meeting the average consumer's needs. Banks are owned by stockholders, and the very single purpose to own a business is to make a profit, and profits go back to the owners. So banks are owned by stockholders. That money that's generated there oftentimes go outside of that organization. Credit unions are owned by the members. There's no outside stock. You don't invest without being a member. And so everything that we do goes back to serve the members. We lump our savings together. We make low-cost loans to each other, and we make a profit. That profit then goes back into making it better services, free services, special services, higher dividends, lower interest rates on loans. And so it really benefits the individuals who belong to that credit union. So it's a very wise choice.
Last thing for this, Sid, and we're going to get to know you throughout the whole show, and thank you so much for your time as always. You have some special offers for new members, and you're also the official credit union of the University of Utah. You can get early entry into the stadium. You also get special ticket offers as well. So what sort of call to actions do we have for people that could potentially join in new member offers?
Yeah, we have a lot of members, Spence, but for those who are not a member, we have a great offer to come and join the credit union right now. Those people who want to come and open up a savings and a checking account at America First, we'll give them $100. Come try us out. Come experience the difference that we can provide for our members and for you and your family.
There you go. AmericaFirst.com/deals for more information, right, Dave?
Yep. Go to the website and check it all out.
Great to see you. We'll chat in a bit.
Awesome. Thanks.
We'll catch a quick break. We'll bring in Chris Camerani coming up on the other side of a quick break on a Tuesday drive. So keep it here on ESPN 700. It's 80s day on the station. I don't know why I decided it. I just did. I was driving down, fired up the Spotify, hit shuffle, little 80s music came on. I should have informed our next guest because he likes to choose his walk-up song, but we're doing 80s today all day.
I don't hate it. I think that while there are, of course, some awesome hits from the 80s, it also may have been one of the worst decades of music.
I would say it's one of the best. Like it's kind of like Billy Joel. Billy Joel has tremendous albums and tremendous songs, and then like Billy Joel went through a stretch where like, dude, what are you doing, right? So there's some great music, and then there's some not so great music. Is that fair for the 80s?
That's fair.
Okay.
That's kind of fair for a lot. You could do that with the Beatles, I think.
I think my guy Dave from America First is loving the 80s music.
80s are the best.
Love it.
I love Def Leppard. You give me some big hair bands.
There we go.
I'm in it.
Christopher Kamrani from The Athletic. Hello, young man. How are you?
Catalina wine mixer.
Exclusively 80s Joel, sir. That's what we do. Horatio Sands. Excellent appearance. How are you, bud?
I'm doing well. How are you, man?
I'm good. Do you want to take a victory lap after choosing BYU to beat Utah? Would you like to gloat on the show today?
Oh, no, I'm not gloating at all. I just figured that across the board, BYU had more proven talent, and the game came down to the wire, as it often does. But the reality is BYU has it put together right now, and Utah does not.
Well, the results kind of speak for themselves. Chris, last year after BYU rolled up to Salt Lake and beat Utah the way that they did, that was their second straight win. And I said last year, okay, it kind of feels like the tide is turning a bit. Well, now that we have 3 straight, that's a streak, okay? And it feels like the tide has turned, right? So is it just time to say that at least for this day, at least for right now, the preeminent college football program in the state of Utah exists about 40 miles down south?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about proof of concept track record in the Big 12, obviously BYU has one more year under their belt than Utah, but this is the second straight year that BYU, has started at least 7-0. They started 9-0 last year. This was a team that a lot of people wrote off, as you know, Spence, after the departure of Jake Retzloff. In a weird way, I feel like they are a more well-rounded, more difficult team to stop now with a true freshman quarterback. Now, granted, there have been some mistakes, but you saw Jake be pretty turnover prone last year, even though he had a great year as a seasoned veteran. So, I just think right now what Kalani and his staff have put together is a very well-rounded team, and it kind of embodies, if you really think about it, kind of the current era of college football where stars are, diluted across the board. There aren't, necessarily huge must-see names, and if you're able to put together a really good roster and coach it up well, you will have a chance. And now, granted, BYU is in the Big 12, which I have said often on this show is a conference that can be had on any given week. And listen, BYU is undefeated this far into the season for a second year in a row. And I guess I just wasn't surprised by the result. I think maybe people were reading into the Vegas line, and in retrospect, maybe the line just has to do with Vegas not trusting a true freshman quarterback. But if you've watched both of these teams this year, one team has figured out a way to win every game they've been in, whether they were playing good teams or bad teams. They just looked like they were always up for the challenge. Utah's just been a difficult team to figure out. And I think I knew there were going to be some growing pains coming into the season with a whole new offense, an entirely new style of play. I tried to warn your listeners to not buy into the state media hype that Devin Dampier is going to be a Heisman Trophy finalist. Like, this was going to be a big leap for anybody from the group of 5 level to where he is now. And he's played well, but listen, he's beat up again. And this is what happens when you have to run a quarterback 14 to 18 times a game. And I'm sure you were going to go there next, but you just got to be logical when you come into this stuff. But I guess fan is short for fanatic. So yeah, long-winded way of saying not surprised by the result. And I do think BYU is in a better place overall as a Power 4 program right now than Utah.
Before we get to the actual game and talk about some of the dynamics, I want to continue talking about where we're at on a 30,000-foot level from a macro viewpoint, because I can remember when Utah was in the midst of their 9-game winning streak over BYU. I talked often about how this stuff is cyclical, and at some point it will come around. Now, what wasn't clear then was what BYU needed to have happen for it to come around. So a few things have happened. Number one, Big 12 invite. So suddenly both teams are in P4 conferences. Number two, Pac-12 implosion, right? And so then Utah is fortunate to find a safe landing spot. So then they're both in the same conference. But number three, and the biggest thing that came into play, and there's a sound bite on this show 5 years ago when I said, if this NIL stuff becomes a reality, it is great news for BYU. Said it 5 years ago, okay? So it's clear they have figured out the economics to this thing. So the question now, Chris, is what has to happen for Utah to get back to where they were for this thing to become cyclical once again? The easy answer is this, the Big Ten. That's the easy answer. Do you think that's on the table at all? A couple of things have manifested over the past few weeks. Number one, Oregon has reportedly complained about not having more geographic partners as far as traveling to plays, teams that are closer to their footprint. USC has expressed the same interest, and according to reports, both of them have expressed to the conference that they would like to see Utah get that Big Ten invite. If that happens, that could – now, it also – the collateral damage could be Utah BYU going away again. I get that. But that's the one thing that comes to mind as far as how Utah can get back to either even or a step ahead of BYU. Give me your thoughts on that.
If we're at the 30,000 viewpoint and we're talking about Utah to the Big Ten, we are basically just to the point where the captain is comfortable enough to turn off the fasten seatbelt sign, but doesn't know for sure. Like, we still have, a 7-hour flight ahead of us, and we don't know what that's going to look like.
Are we allowed to use the restroom yet?
Well, it's up to you.
Okay.
I mean, in 2025, everybody needs their own free will to be able to do what they want at any time, regardless of whether they're being told to be safe or not. But I digress. Yes, in theory, a Big Ten invite would potentially close the gap, but we're talking about something I think that is very far down the line if it ever comes to fruition. If Utah, in the current state that it's in, is now kind of trailing its great beloved sibling 40 miles south, I don't know what is tantalizing to the Big Ten about Utah. That would be my question. Outside of keeping Oregon happy, like, I'm sure there are lots of, academic institution stuff, great medical school. That goes a long way, because I know the Big Ten really prides itself on its academics and whatnot. But if we're really boiling it down, like, what's going to close the gap is Utah finding better players and being able to deploy better players. I just think the Big Ten thing is such a pie in the sky thing right now, Spence, that I don't really necessarily entertain it. But if it were ever to get, if we're starting our descent and the captain has told us to put our seatbelts on because we're almost there, then we can start to have that conversation. How's that analogy?
I like it. No, it works as long as it's a direct flight, because I'm not into layovers.
Correct.
And you're not wrong about this still being a little bit pie in the sky. It is clear that whether it's the administration, whether it's Taylor Randall, whether it's Mark Harlan, it's clear that contact has been made. It's clear that conversations have gone down. And it's obvious, Chris, because if you're not in the Big Ten and the SEC, you're still in a way on the outside. But if we put that aside for a moment, is there another avenue that Utah can entertain while being in the Big 12 to try to get back to where they were not too long ago as the superior program to Brigham Young?
I'm going to go back to recruit better.
Besides just getting good players, because, obviously, but is it economics? Is it something with NIL endeavors?
Yes, it's that. And obviously, if you look at the difference between the talent discrepancy on the field, which I'm going to go back to, even though you don't want me to, odds are a lot of those players that were wearing blue on Saturday cost potentially more than some of those in red. Now, granted, some of those in red probably a little more top heavy, maybe demanded more individual higher salary numbers. But my point is yes, as has been covered, our guy Jason Patakiao had a great story in the Tribune on Saturday about kind of the differences of where each program finds itself when it comes to being able to offer certain amounts of money, and how BYU through third-party entities came potentially poaching, as most all third-party entities do when it comes to college football when they're representing specific schools. I just think, yeah, if we were going to tier it right now, I would say probably economics is one, because that's the easiest, most low-hanging fruit thing. Kyle has said it himself. I mean, he's been very complimentary of Texas Tech and their model. Like he says, if you have money, spend it, and why not? And in 1B to that would just be talent. And more often than not, if you're able to have more money to spend, you will be able to acquire more talent. But that's the unique thing about this program, is historically it's punched above its weight. It's found those diamonds in the rough. Like if you think about the superstars that have developed at Utah, just even in the Pac-12 era, how many of those guys came in as 4 or 5-star guys? Like Devin Lloyd, I think, was a 2-star athlete coming out of San Diego. Britton Covey, Zach, the Hallandale trio, like those guys were known. And I think Zach at one point, had an offer to go to Miami, but decided to come to Utah. My point is, sooner or later, you're going to have to complement the model of finding the Britton Coveys, finding the Devin Lloyds, finding the Jackson Bennies, and complement that with being able to splash cash on difference makers, and difference makers not in the trenches. Because as we've seen in both of these losses so far for Utah, the issues have been everywhere in the losses, but the issues to me have primarily been opposing defenses know that Utah isn't really a threat in the air. And that has been a problem for them for the last 20 years, outside of maybe those 2 Rose Bowl years. But that, to me, is always going to come down to the reality of what Utah's facing at the moment.
So just for our listeners' context, the story that Chris is referring to is the report Jason Patakiao had from the Tribune about BYU offering Caleb Lomu $1.5 million to transfer from Utah to BYU. And look, I look at this stuff pragmatically. I don't look at this emotionally. I know fans will get up in their feelings about tampering, this and that or whatever, and what happened with Keanu Tanavasa. BYU's not doing anything that's not legal. They're playing by the rules of the game. You can complain about the rules of the game, Chris, as much as you want, but as long as you're not doing anything illegal, there's just nothing that you can do about it. Is there a part of it that might be a little bit of a bad look? Okay, fine. I can cop to that. But if it's not against the rules, Utah has to find a way to win the game while playing by the rules the way BYU has. Because the other issue is that at some point regulation will set in. And we have more regulation now than we did even 4 or 5 months ago. But whether it's Texas Tech, and we could go down the list of big spending teams, and BYU certainly in basketball is one of them, and in football it appears that they're catching up as well. A lot of teams took advantage of this window in a way that it doesn't feel like Utah did. Is that fair?
A billion percent, yes. And this is what happens when you turn over basically an entire side of the football. And everybody knows, who is familiar with Utah football, how great it could have been under Andy Ludwig. And then last year, when they were down to your guy, the Ferrari, at one point, their 5th string quarterback, I think for a 2nd straight year, did not look great. Like that is just the reality of the situation, that Utah was hampered with a historically ill-timed injury bug for consecutive seasons. But yeah, if you look at again, BYU basically, this is how I'll sum it up. BYU is doing a better job of what Utah did for such a long time, and they've just basically elevated it to another level. They've been able to get players and deploy them and utilize them to the best of their abilities. Like, if you were comparing individual groups, positional groups in that game, like people would have said, sure, Utah probably has the better offensive line because it has 2 bookend tackles that will likely go in the first round. But after that, historically, it was like Utah will have a better O-line. Utah will have a better D-line. Utah will have better cornerbacks. They'll have better running backs. They'll have better linebackers. That was not the case. That was just simply not the case. Utah had to turn over the entire side of the ball because after Andy Ludwig left, Kyle and Morgan had to go out and find a new offensive coordinator, and it took a few tries. They settled on Jason Beck. Everyone was stoked when Jason Beck brought Devin Dampier with them because Devin looked really good in some games last year in the Mountain West. But after that, you're doing some bit piecing together, man. It seems pretty bargain bin shopping when you talk about deploying the type of weapons around Devin to help Utah get to the level that they need to. I mean, simply put, they just don't have the guys on the outside. And that BYU game was evident. Even before Devin got hurt, who was open? Why was Devin having to hold the ball for such a long time? The offensive line did a pretty good job pass blocking, but listen, man, I've been on your show for a long time now. One of your favorites, your regulars, your guy. The same thing I will come back to. I went to school at the U. I've been covering this team for almost 20 years. They have to find players that can change the game on the outside, and they don't have it. And I know they'll say, well, Dalton Kincaid and this and that. No, man. You need, BYU has a guy in Chase Roberts that's far and away better than any receiver Utah has. Parker Kingston is a kind of jack of all trades, a Britton Covey type. And they just figured it out. They are just doing what Utah did for such a long time at a more elevated level, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. And look, I always say this about sports. The good news is we have a scoreboard, so we know what the results are, period, end of story. And Batakiau's piece quotes Smith Snowden's dad talking about what a dirty business it is. And look, this is not a new thing in collegiate athletics, third-party people contacting players representing the school, because the rules say coaches can't contact you, administrators can't contact you. But it doesn't mean some booster down at BYU who has started a company, MLM or whatever, that's made a lot of money, doesn't have the ability to make a phone call. That technically is not against the rules. And what this article outlines is there's clearly a lot of people down in Provo who care about BYU football, and I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything that's below board, but it's not new in the NCAA to find ways to circumvent certain rules in order to prosper when it comes to your program. And it just doesn't feel like at this point, Chris, Utah has figured it out the same way BYU has, but we've already covered it, so I'll leave it there. Let's move over to the game. So 4th down calls, okay? Not all of them are created equal. But, you leave 9 points on the board. We'll get to some of the player mistakes, the muff punt. I have no idea what Teo Johnson was doing with that sack. But just, let's get into these 4th down calls. What do you make of it?
Let's do it.
I never thought I would hear Kyle Whittingham, of all people, say, I relied on the analytics. I was stunned to hear him say that and then double down. I don't think, this is my personal opinion, Scott Mitchell kind of echoed this yesterday. The analytics say one thing. If you're in Salt Lake against Arizona, okay, maybe you're in Provo against BYU. There's a different level of passion and emotion. And, essentially what's at stake if that doesn't go your way. Now, if they convert, we're calling him a genius, but they didn't, so he's got to wear it. What are your thoughts?
So let's start with the first one, which weirdly set up a series of plays that turned out to be Utah's bread and butter for the rest of the night. 4th and 1 on the 12. Jason Beck calls that jet sweep for Daniel Bray. Bray fails to cut in when he had the angle on the cornerback. He just decides to go out wide and is brought down. For those who watch the game, without Daniel Bray, Utah's probably blown out. Yep. And he goes on to have 100 and something yards, and primarily through those jet sweeps, showed off his wheels. I get it. To me, if watching from afar as somebody who has covered Kyle for a long time, then this is just my opinion, it felt like he was managing this game as his final one. He was let's go for it. Nothing to lose. We can set the tone here. If we score a touchdown and go up early, I mean, don't forget that was a 12-play, 81-yard drive that ended at the BYU 12. If you're able to punch it in, that turns out to be a 93-yard drive, maybe 15, 16 plays long. You set the tone. The second one, not so much, is not so egregious to me because it's 4th and 7 on the 28. Dylan Curtis is 1 for 4 on field goal attempts from 40 to 49 yards. That would have been a 46-yard field goal. So it's not ideal that your 5-star kicker isn't entrusted to be able to get you on the board. Utah's was once known as a hallmark of special teams. Lately, that's not so much the case. And then the one in the third quarter, you're down 10-7. You're able to potentially bring it even, and then momentum goes BYU's way. And then from then on, like BYU started to pull away before that last drive where Utah scored. I don't think the 4th and 7 in the second quarter was as egregious as the other two. But again, it's this give and take where, like you said, if they get it and then eventually go on to score, it's like, Dan Campbell is known in the NFL ranks for being this awesome gambler going for it on 4th down on his own 20-yard line or whatever. And when he gets it, they're like, oh, Dan Campbell, or Riverboat Ron Rivera, like just all these football idioms that people lean on. It is different in a rivalry game, and I get that. But then again, as I was having this conversation with one of my BYU friends yesterday, like even if Utah takes those 6 points, there's no guarantee that that last touchdown drive where Utah goes down and brings it to 24-21, it could be a totally different ballgame. So hindsight to me is always 20/20. Everything can be managed differently in retrospect. But I'm not surprised, honestly, like knowing Kyle and knowing how he wants to call games. But yeah, if you're able to have those 6 points early in the fourth quarter, it's potentially a different ball game. But ifs and buts, man. Like BYU was the better team. I was surprised that the final score was as close as it was, considering how well I thought BYU played throughout the night. And here they are, 7-0 for the second time this far into the season in consecutive years.
Yeah, it came down to oftentimes what it usually comes down to, because Utah outgained BYU. They had more passing yards. They had more rushing yards. They had more yards per carry. But they had 7 more penalties. The turnovers were 2-0. And, the final score is not indicative. I mean, credit Utah for continuing to fight, find another touchdown. But special teams, again, they couldn't even kick an onside kick 10 yards. And I have one question for you about Witt before I set you loose. But before we get there, which one of the individual player mistakes do you think hurt the most? Mana's muff punt before the end of the first half was a killer because BYU got a field goal instead of Utah potentially being able to drive and score before they got the ball to start the second. The Te'o Johnson sack, I said this yesterday. I think I've watched it 20 times, and I have no idea what happened. He had Bear Bachmeier dead to rights in the backfield, let him go, and even gave him momentum moving forward. And the problem with that play, the compounded issue, is then Lander comes in, and he's ejected for targeting. Mm-hmm. Lander's probably their best tackler. That changed the entire game. So I have one question about Witt. Before we get there, which one of the individual mistakes was the most costly?
That's a tough one. I mean, I would probably say the muffed punt, the inability to bring Bachmeier down, and then Devin's interception. Like, I think that was a poor throw into like triple coverage that Tanner Wall easily read. And Tanner Wall did not mince words on the field after the game. I think he said something along the lines of, Utah's not a very hard defense to plan for in the air. Their passing game is pretty basic, and basically BYU knew more often than not what Utah was trying to do in the air whenever Devin dropped back to pass. So take that for what you will. I'll as the guy that likes to spread the blame, because that's how I think everything should be done. It's not on one person. I'm going to say that everybody that had a hand in the loss gets a share of the blame. How about that?
Oh, you're not wrong. There's too many times people want to find the scapegoat. So you're right there. All right, before I set you loose, you referenced that you you feel like Kyle was coaching that game as if it was his last against BYU. Do you believe that it was?
I'll say yes. I just don't think you can continually chase something that isn't a guarantee, especially now. And, to be able to be on one side of it and be as dominant as he was for such a long time. I mean, three is 33.3% of 9. So, Utah fans will find a way to brag about something very trivial and meaningless like that to their BYU fans, I'm sure. But yeah, I probably think that's it. I mean, that would be my guess, but who knows? I mean, if he wants to keep doing it, he can keep doing it. But it is kind of criminal, and this is on me. Like we went this entire hit without talking about Kalani and how basically he has the most direct hand, in my opinion, in flipping the trajectory of this rivalry. And yeah, maybe next week we'll get into that.
Well, you did write a piece on Kalani, and you became very popular in the Checketts household. As I sent it to,
did I?
Yes, you did, because I sent it around. I'll just ask you where people can go get it, and then I'll just let them read it because it was perfect, and that's exactly who Kalani is.
Yeah, so I was able to spend an hour with Kalani a couple weeks before the rivalry game, and lucky enough to write for our new vertical called Peak, which is our sports desk, which covers the lens of sports through leadership, personal development, and performance. And I've always been fascinated with Kalani's approach to everything. So for those who haven't read it, it's basically why Kalani Sitake is who he is and why he's obsessed with finding the joy in the moments of life and how that's translated into helping build BYU into a winner. Found at theathletic.com. Stoked that I got points in the Checketts household. Stoked for it.
Did everybody behave at Leo's birthday? Did any of the young kids have too much? Were they overserved, or was everybody safe?
Just Leo.
Okay. All right. Shout out, Leo. Thanks, CK.
Appreciate you.
Chris Kamrani from The Athletic. I always appreciate his time. I appreciate Dave's time from America First Credit Union. You're a big football fan, right?
I enjoy the pigskin.
Yeah. That's quite a wide-ranging interview. We covered a lot of different topics.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. But America First Credit Union is for Utes and Cougars. And everybody, right?
We are for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't discriminate. We want the best financial products and services for everybody.
Love it. All right, so food insecurity, very serious issue that many families face. Help us kind of understand what we're facing here in the state.
Yeah, America First has a charitable foundation, and we look for ways where we can strengthen and join forces and even create our own initiatives. We tend to focus on things like food, clothing, shelter, safety, and education. And this is our 21st annual food drive that we have going on. It started September. It runs through September, goes through October 31st. So we got about 10 more days left. We would love to engage our listeners and the community and our members at large to be able to participate in that.
And how can they get involved, Dave?
Well, I think kind of the mentality is just digging deep. We kind of take for granted what we don't have until we don't have it. And there's many people that don't have that. 1 in 7 individuals in Utah don't have food. They don't know where that next meal is going to come from. And so you can participate in lots of different ways. If you're a member, use your online banking, use your mobile banking. You can just make a transfer easy. We love to be able to make financial contributions because the food banks can make very good use of that money. If you're not a member, we have a QR code you can scan, go to our website, go into a branch, scan that QR code, and make that same financial donation. Or if you're the kind of person that likes to give a tangible good, we're collecting food at all of our branch locations. We have over 90 locations in Utah. And so there's convenient locations all across the Wasatch Front, down south, up north, that people can just drop off some tangible goods, and we'll make sure that we get that to the food banks.
Now, the annual food drive goes until the 31st, so we've got 10 days away, right?
Yeah.
So you reference what the members can do. Let's talk about why people should join and become members. Ultimately, I'm sure there are plenty of people that are frustrated with their bank, bad customer service, fees all over the place. What makes you guys different, and then what are the offers you have for new members?
Yeah, we are the largest credit union in the state. We're stable. We have that local feel, but with national strength. And there's just good reasons to join. Good products, good services, good rates. convenient locations, awesome electronic services. And so just come try us out. We have a great member deal that's going on right now. Come in, open up a savings and a checking account, and you get $100. There's no strings attached. That's $100 that's directly into your pocket. So that will benefit you right now and even in the holidays.
Also, it is the official credit union of the University of Utah Athletics Department. You get awesome deals when it comes to ticket offers. You get early game day entry. You can beat the crowd and get into Rice-Eccles Stadium up to 2 hours prior to kickoff. For more information, go to americafirst.com/deals. Dave, thanks, buddy.
Go Utes.
Go Utes. We'll catch a break. We'll bring in Stevenson Sylvester coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. Are we doing 80s Joel? Now you're just trolling me. You know we're not supposed to do 80s Joel. We're doing 80s music, but no 80s Billy Joel.
Only 80s Joel.
Shout out Horatio Sands. Step Brothers, great movie. Our next guest, my brother from another mother, not my stepbrother, Stevenson Sylvester on a Tuesday. Hello, Sly. How are you? Sly?
Spence, what's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for the time. So right out of the gates, as a player, what's it like to beat BYU, and what's it like to lose to BYU?
Man, it's all the emotions, man. It's great. I'm telling you, when people talk about having bragging rights for a year, it's awesome. When I say that I was getting in arguments with kids, it's because of those bragging rights, man, and it's real stuff, man. So being a part of this rivalry is something special, man, and I just think that Saturday was just another epic chapter to this amazing rivalry.
So let's dig into it, Sly. I listened to some of your breakdowns when you were on TV over the weekend, and you correct me if I'm wrong, and you speak to it in any way you want. You feel like the aggressive nature of the fourth down calls was the correct route by the coaching staff. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, I do. When you go back and look at those plays, right? I think what we were 1 for 5. 4 of those 5 that weren't successful were because of player error, right? And you can only say so much on TV. TV's so quick, and so I didn't really get to elaborate on a lot of that stuff. But the majority of that stuff is coaches can only do so much, right? Everybody's talking about with this. I'm like, he's not playing on the field. He's not executing on the field. If you go back and watch all those fourth downs, there's a main blocker, a main person that's supposed to execute in order for things to happen. It's why football is so great. It's because 11 people need to be on the same page and get that, right? There's a fourth down in that third quarter. Spencer Fano is blocking like it's play action instead of downhill wildcat with Devin Dampier. Dampier picks that up if Spencer Fano blocks correctly, right? Larry Simmons on that one with Daniel Bray. If he just gets anything on Bamba, Daniel Bray's speed, which we saw late in that first quarter, there's nobody that can catch that guy. So there's execution errors that are players' faults. It's nothing the coaches can do. Coaches call the plays, and the players have to execute. I know the coaches takes a lot of the faults, but when it gets down to it, players got to play. And I just think in the bottom line to surmise that game is too many mental errors. I can't say the effort. The effort was there. The effort by everybody was there. But when you get into top-tier games against top-tier teams like BYU, you got to be executing. You got to play a near-perfect game. And having too many mental errors will, of course, lead to your defeat.
So I was excited to have you on today because I have to ask you about one play specifically, Sly, that I've watched maybe 20 or 30 times. And I still don't know what happened, and I actually think it was among, if not the most consequential play for Utah football on Saturday night.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Teo Johnson, who is a talented kid, and I'm sure he is just gutted about how this went down. He gets Bear Bachmeier in the backfield dead to rights. It would have been about a 4 or 5 yard loss. And he didn't even have to complete the tackle. He just couldn't let him go, Sly, which is what he did. And then on the replay, the momentum that Teo Johnson actually had, it allowed Bear even more momentum moving forward. Now, the biggest thing that happened in the play is because of the inability to make that play, then Lander Barton comes in. And when you look at the replay, it did feel like Lander tried to get his helmet down, but Bear dipped his head, and it was helmet-to-helmet contact. It was deemed targeting, and Lander was ejected. And he'll miss the first half of the Colorado game. You're a guy that made a living getting after quarterbacks. What did you see? Why did that go down? What happened there?
Man, I just think that Teo, he's got to complete that, right? But it's what sucks, right? This is an offensive football period nowadays from youth league all the way up to the pros. It's offensive orientated, right? In baseball, tie goes to the runner, tie goes to the offense. But I think that the game is geared to enhance scoring, enhance offensive production. And so I think the rules implemented, I mean, honestly, defensive players, and me being one in the league and being around top tier defensive players as well, we're having to double and triple think. And then on defense, and being such a reactionary, when we're reacting to whatever the offense does, and we're having to think even more, it makes our job even harder, right? And so for that, if I look at it, I don't know, I didn't talk to Teo, but it's just like, okay, I want to make sure that I don't get a penalty. I have him in the grasp. I have him long enough that he looks like he's done, right? Blow the whistle. I don't know if he didn't hear a whistle or it's just in his mind. They're like, look, I got him in a grasp. Somebody else got him in a grasp. He must be done. And then he just keeps going after that. And so it's just like on the defensive side of the ball, you don't know when to stop or when it is, because how many times does defensive players get penalties because they want to finish that play, right? And so they don't finish the play, and Bear Bachmeier gets loose, and Bear Bachmeier is a running quarterback, right? Lander Barton in his mind is Bear Bachmeier runs. And so I got to put him in the dirt in order to stop him, right? And so here it comes. He comes out of the pocket. He breaks a tackle. He just broke a tackle, right? And so what Lander's thinking is just like, okay, I got to make sure I got to assure this tackle. So he puts extra effort into that. A quarterback does a little flip at the end of a play, and he's got to stop his whole momentum. It's like telling a train to stop when it sees somebody at the last second. It's just not going to happen. And so I think the rules are unfortunate. Now, because of the rules, I do think that he made contact with the face mask, with the crown of his helmet, but it wasn't intentional. He does exactly what the rule says. Get your head to the side. Don't lead with it. He didn't spear Bear Bachmeier, but he did make contact, unfortunately. And as you said, Bear Bachmeier dipped his head to protect himself. I just think that within the rules and the reviewing, they got to have some human error in that, right? Like, where is the fact that Bear Bachmeier is trying to defend himself? He lowers his helmet, and it ends up hitting the defender who did what he was supposed to do by getting his head out of the way, right? Where's the human error with trying to judge those things? And so, unfortunately, it was a crappy play, because the very next play, Parker Kingston gets a fly sweep for a touchdown. And so it sucks. It put us behind the ball. And it really, when you lose an emotional leader like Lander, it does a lot more than losing one position.
Why the missed tackles, Sly, this year? You know, the tackling issues Coach Witt himself has discussed on multiple occasions. And you could tell with Lander out of the game, as I referenced, it took away one of Utah's best tacklers. Just a lot of missed tackles. And I am not one to take credit away from the winner. Bear Bachmeier's a big athlete, and he's a tough kid. And he made some really, really good plays and had some really dynamic runs. But, again, you're a guy that made a living tackling offensive players. So tell me what you're seeing.
Well, I mean, there's a multitude of things, right? From the off-season training to getting guys ready and having guys have to be healthy. How much tackling drills are you doing? Ultimately, what I'm seeing from before the bye week, all this season, every time I've seen a missed tackle, I see guys leaving their feet. You know, we've had a couple of, when I played, there was a couple of times where we had issues like that. And the correction is, don't leave your feet, run your feet all the way through the tackle. It's that, and then guys are just out of position time and time again. The Bear Bachmeier quarterback keep touchdown. Teo Johnson was supposed to make that play again. Out of position, over pursues it, right? And it's because of different things. Levani Demuni comes up and green dogs the back, but he makes himself skinny, and so Bear Bachmeier now has a two-way go instead of Levani Demuni, stalemating that running back and making sure that he has a two-way go as a defender, and helping him out. It's just over pursuing, guys out of position. They're not in position. The technique on the defensive side of the ball, I can't tell you whose fault that is. I don't know if that's the coaching staff. I don't know if that's just the times. I don't know if that's because we were only able to have one practice a day during training camp. I don't know what the real issue is, but it's a technical thing on the defensive side of the ball. these players aren't having the correct technique when there's so many, as you said, there's so many, even on our defensive line, when they're supposed to be squeezing all the way down, their technique is bad. I don't know what it is, but the guys are leaving their feet and they're over pursuing and they're not in the right position to make tackles time and time again. This season is really, really hard as a Utah fan to watch.
All right, I want to ask you one question about BYU, then one about Utah before we set you loose. Last year, BYU rolls up here to Salt Lake. They win an emotional game at the last minute with a, game-winning field goal, a penalty that, we'll leave that where it was. And then after they lose 2 straight games, the Kansas game in Provo is the one that I think just really killed their season. The loss at ASU. I mean, ASU won the league a year ago. But have you seen enough from BYU to believe that they have the potential to, go forward, continue to win, and maybe win this conference? And how do they avoid the letdown that they suffered a year ago after such an emotional win?
Well, I mean, Kalani's been saying it in his thing. I think the recognition of the moment, right? It's just like the recognition of missed tackles, right? Like hopefully that sparks you to do better and stop missing these tackles. Hopefully the recognition of what happened last year, the let off, is what, and I'm telling you, as a coach, all you can do is coach. You can inform your team. You can run the play. You're not out there playing. And that's what Kalani's doing right now. He's informing his team. He's like, look, we had an emotional game last year. This was an emotional game this year. Let's not have this game linger in the next week. Just because we won this game doesn't mean we win the next game. And so, yeah, I think BYU definitely has the skills to run the table here, go all the way to the Big 12 championship and beyond. But I think that it's all about timing, right? Because they play Iowa State. Iowa State's kind of on a skid right now. They got a bye week. And then they got a couple other games from TCU and Texas Tech. It's about finishing the drill, right? Taking it 1 week at a time. I know people who came out of bye weeks even more rustier than they came in. And so BYU's just got to stay sharp in mind and understand the task at hand because they've done everything that they're supposed to. You beat everybody on your schedule. You take these emotional games. You swing with it. You have tight games against Arizona. You have tight games against Utah. You ride that wave. You're a battle-tested team. You understand adversity. And so there's a lot of pluses for BYU, but hey, it's all about playing that game each and every week. You cannot look at the Big 12 championship. You got to look at, Iowa State this week and then whoever's your opponent after that.
It's really interesting to look at some of the rankings outside of just your classic, AP coaches poll. So when you look at both the metrics that ESPN uses, their SP Plus rankings, they have Utah at 14, BYU at 20, and then their football power index, the FPI, Utah currently is at 15, while BYU is at 19, even though BYU is 7-0 and Utah is 5-2. I bring that up to say there's still plenty of data at our disposal to indicate Utah football is a really, really good football team, even though they've already suffered 2 losses. Now, Utah's schedule, it's opening up a bit. BYU has a harder finish to the schedule as opposed to Utah. Colorado rolls into town on Saturday night. Utah's a 13.5-point favorite. As a guy that has played in the rivalry game, what are the challenges of putting it behind you and taking care of the task at hand?
It's tough, but, for me, we played the rivalry game the last week of the season. So we didn't have another game,
That's right,
that next week. So I benefited from that. And I'm telling you, it would have been tough. If we had played BYU earlier and we had another opponent the week after, it would have been tough. So I can't personally say that I know exactly how to do it, but it is what I've done it in the NFL, right? We take those emotional games and it's week to week to week. I played when there was only there is just one bye week in the NFL, but you got emotional games all the time, a lot of battle tested stuff because you're running to win. And you got to keep pressing because, look, the world don't stop. So it ain't going to stop for you to soak. It ain't going to stop for you to rub your injuries. It's not going to stop. People are going to want to beat you down. I think there's nothing more that Dion wants to do than to come into Rice-Eccles stadiums and lay a beat down on us. And so you got to pick your head up, and there's still a lot of football left. As you said, there's a chance for you to have a double-digit win season, right? That's huge. right? There could be a chance for us to have 10 wins this season, man. And so I think that, these guys just got to pick it up. Don't lick your wounds, just cover them things and go back into battle, man. We gotta make this thing happen, right? Because there's nothing we can do about yesterday. There's nothing we can do about 3 days ago. There's nothing we can do about that. What we can do is I can take my frustrations out on Colorado. I can make everybody know that, look, we're still a good team. We still put up 470 yards. We're just unable to punch it in the end zone, right? We are a very good football team, and I can still prove that, in weeks to come.
Sly, you're the man. Tough game, but hopefully better things ahead. Thanks for the time. Have a good week, okay?
You're the man. Talk to you guys soon.
Stevenson Sylvester. I want to let you guys know with IFA Step 4 Fall and Winter Lawn Foods, you'll get stronger roots now and an early green up next spring. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move. More can be found at your local IFA or at ifa.coop. All right, football top of mind awareness, but the Utah Jazz will play basketball tomorrow. Hopefully Ace Bailey will be available. We're going to have Andy Larson stop by to talk a little Jazz, but we have Dave live in studio from America First Credit Union. And Dave, good news, you guys are about to launch the limited edition Jazz Affinity Card.
When you say about to, Spence, we're launching it today.
Look at that.
Yeah, we've got it.
Very nice. So tell us about,
Tell me what you think of that.
You got it in the purple, too, which is the right move.
I've got it right there in the palm of my hand. Yeah, this is our second purple card. We've been doing these limited edition Visa debit cards since 2021.
Nice.
And it's just nice. It's sleek. It's so good. And I think it's important that you have your pride in your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
You carry it around, your pride in your pocket. And when you pull that out, people know that you're really truly a fan. And this card is just, it's so sleek, so awesome.
It's purple with the Jazz note.
Yeah.
And that's the best design that you could have come up with.
Yeah, it's got some nice silver on there. It's really sleek and clean. There's not a lot of stuff on the front except that branding. And then your name and your account number is going to go on the back of the card. So it's just got a really fresh look.
And what sort of benefits does the card come with?
Yeah, America First has been a partner with the Utah Jazz for quite some time. And we love that we are able to offer benefits and discounts and experiences to our members. I think the important thing is you pair this with your Jazz app so that when you're doing those online in-app purchases, you get 10% off.
Oh, nice.
Concessions.
Very nice.
And there's some select concessions that do that. You can also get 15% off on merchandise when you go to the team store, which is super cool. We're hoping for a triple-double this year. Yeah, I know.
The streak.
I know. Yeah, streak, right? But
I'll tell you what, this Ace Bailey kid is very, very good. Maybe Ace can grab him. Maybe Lowry. Somebody's Walker Kessler. There are potentials for triple doubles.
When we get Ace to score a triple double, you're going to get 32% off the day after in the team store, which is super good.
Ooh.
And when you talk about early entry, I mean, how fun is it that you get to go with your family and your kids, and you get to go early? You get to enter in 30 minutes early before anybody else when you show your card. That's up to 100 different people every game can go in early. And there's just really good other activations, and I'm really excited about the First Friday offer that's new this year. The Jazz will send you out an email with an offer, and that could be a ticket offer, that could be merch offers, but super great. So every First Friday is now America First Friday.
No, that's awesome. Also, America First Credit Union is the official credit union of the University of Utah Athletics Department, so you can get great ticket offers if you're a Utah football fan. Get into Rice Eccles early. And before I set you loose, you have great offers for new members who are looking to make a change.
Yeah, we just talked about this new Visa debit card. You cannot get that if you're not a member of the credit union. So we've had a great deal for those who want to become a member. There's a $100 offer to become a member. Open up a savings and a checking. Pair that checking with your free limited edition Jazz Visa debit card, and you're going to be set. Good to go.
There you go. To see all member deals and discounts, check out americafirst.com/deals. And the shot clock is on. Visit americafirst.com/jazz to get your free Jazz limited edition Visa debit card before they're gone. To learn more, simply stop by a branch, call or visit us online, and take advantage of this and other great offers. Dave, you're the man.
Thanks, buddy.
Catch a break and bring in Andy Larson coming up right here on ESPN 700. So you're just going to go 80s Joel the rest of the show. You're going to play 80s Billy Joel. There are so many great 80s music options, and you're just going to lean into the 80s Joel all show long.
Is there an issue?
Yes.
I'm struggling to find the problem that you're alluding to.
The problem is 80s Joel sucks.
Oh.
There's plenty of good Billy Joel, but in the 80s he was going through some stuff. The Christy Brinkley breakup you certainly got to him. You can give me some like Piano Man or classic Joel, but no more 80s Joel.
What if I give you Horatio Sands and what's the band's name? What if I give you their version of Billy Joel?
Then you have my permission to do that.
I'll see if I can track that down.
Andy Larson, live in studio. Billy Joel opinion?
One of the only concerts I've been to at the Delta Center, weirdly enough. And
Okay.
it was actually great.
Yeah.
Did like a fan vote thing at one point. It was like, do you want me to play, not Piano Man, but like the spaghetti dinner one, Scenes at an Italian Restaurant.
Scenes at an Italian Restaurant.
That's
yeah.
close, right?
That's a great song. The spaghetti dinner one works, man. Great to see you. How are things?
I'm great, man.
Thanks for coming in. You actually wrote a really good piece on Utah BYU. We'll do Jazz. We'll do a little RSL. The big talking point is the fourth down calls, where you leave points on the field. Now, you're a data guy, you're an analytics guy, and I understand Kyle's point, and I'm sure you do as well. My beef with analytical approach has always been like what you do in Salt Lake City against Arizona. I don't know that you do that in Provo against BYU, if that makes sense. But as you dug into it, tell me what your takeaways were.
Look, I mean, I think the 4th and 1 call makes sense. The play call doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, because you are something like 80% likely to get a 4th and 1 if you run it up the middle. And, you make it more of a 50-50 proposition if you run to the outside, because then you've got the speedy linebackers or whoever can chase you down, right? 4th and 3 is a conversation. And, yeah, the analytics probably says go for it. Again, I'm looking at play call there a little bit, where in order to get 4th and 3 inside run, you probably need a tougher runner than Devin Dampier is, right? Just honestly a bigger guy who can fight through that first point of contact and get over the yellow line, so to speak. 4th and 7, the analytics do not support going for it, right? Like, let's be honest there, and that's made pretty clear by the fact that like you sent Dylan Curtis out there, kind of missed the field goal as the timeout was being called. And then, they changed their mind. Again, I look at play call on that one, and it's like Devin Dampier and Tobias Merriweather have not been able to sync up all year long. I don't know why that's your first option on that play. So, look, I think I like going for it on 4th down more than most coaches do, and I like that Cal Whittingham generally does that. But you're right, like, I think it's circumstances, and then if you're going to take analytics into account for one part of that conversation, it should be on Jason Beck's side of the conversation as well when they're actually choosing what plays to actually call.
Yeah, and the complicated part about it, if Larry Simmons makes one block, they probably convert the play, right? I agree with you, 4th and 7. It wasn't a great throw, and Tobias just hasn't, to your point, he hasn't earned the right to have that play call. And then it's just the dynamic of if you don't convert, what does that do for that crowd in that stadium? What does that do for the momentum in the game? And I completely acknowledge the unfair nature of if you do convert, you are a genius on Monday, and when you don't, you are going to be criticized. But that's just kind of the nature of it.
Well, and to me, like, the momentum's not that. The highest point of Utah momentum in that game was when they went up 17-14, right, and take the lead in the 4th quarter. And BYU it did not care about the momentum one bit, right? Scored him 5 plays on the very next drive and just knifed through that Utah defense. So to me, it's like less momentum and more, like, again, just making the right call based on the personnel you have on the field. You look at what BYU's strengths are, and I thought they pointed at those strengths and maybe make the case like, okay, the offensive line is strong, but especially at the tackle spot. So you want to run off tackle, and maybe that's where – it's hard, right? Like, and there's not going to be perfect calls. And sometimes, the Utes had been the best team in college football on 3rd and 4th downs before this year.
Yep.
Before this game, I should say, in this year. That's the kind of thing that variance can catch up with you on, right? Like sometimes, you have a game where you pull out all the stops and get what you need. And then there's going to be some games where this happens over the aggregate. I just think that, like, you have to look at what their defense is doing, what you do well, and take that into account.
So last thing, then we'll do some Jazz. I don't do radio as the coach must go guy. I don't do radio as the coach must lose his job guy. I speak to this as a child of an NBA executive who changed jobs a lot, and that's hard on families. So I don't love the whole dynamic. Do you feel like this is it for Kyle? Do you think this is his final year? Do you think that's the last time Kyle coached against BYU?
It'll be interesting to see what the pressure is like from the administration, from the boosters, from everyone else, right? I certainly think there's an argument for it. I also significantly worry about, like, some of what can work for Utah, and I'm not sure that it's worked over the last 24 months, we'll call it, but some of what can work for Utah is that they have this coach with a big name and a big reputation who has a history of success. And if you go away from that and you're just competing on an NIL level, I don't know that you should realistically expect Utah football to compete for Big 12 championships, right? Like, because the money picture isn't as good as a couple of other teams in this conference.
Yeah. Well, it's fair. It's fair. Last year, after BYU rolled into Salt Lake and beat Utah for the second straight time, I said on the Monday after the game, it feels like the tides are turning a little bit. And now it's just time to say the tides have turned. The preeminent football program in the state plays their football 40 miles down south for now. We'll see if Utah can get back to where they were not too long ago. All right, let's start with a brand new practice facility for the Utah Jazz in Sandy. I don't know how this affects player commutes. I don't know how this look, fans, it's a practice facility. They still play at the Delta Center. I saw the mock-ups. Looks very cool. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's funny because the Jazz's practice facility was already regarded really highly around the NBA, not just like from the SEG and Miller family PR machine, but like from legitimate people who have gone to all the practice facilities. And, I've gone to all of the NBA arenas. I've seen probably half of the league's practice facilities. And ZBBC is really, really nice what they have currently in Salt Lake City. So that's not why they're doing this, right? The reason they're doing this is for the collaboration and cohesion and frankly, the real estate play in Sandy at Southtown Mall, where, they're in control of the land. They can work the offices from the same spot as the Mammoth. And I think, like, they envision some collaboration between the two teams. But realistically, like, the basketball players are going to come in and go home at the end of the day without spending a lot of time, like, on the ice, right, or in the hockey facility. So I don't think this changes, like, the culture of the team too much. And as one person said to me at the press conference today, it's not like they were getting free agents when it was close to the airport. So, like, I don't know that it will change how people or how players feel about playing, for the Utah Jazz generally.
Do you think it will change where players and employees decide to live?
Yeah, I do. Like, George Niang's a good example, right? Like, moved here, lived downtown, lived near the arena, lived near the practice facility. I think there was a lot of pressure on players to live downtown. I think this probably does push them further south. Frankly, they're at the practice facility more often than they're at the arena. Whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing, probably, I don't think it changes, like, the on-court impact at all. There are several practice facilities around the NBA that are in the suburbs, LA, for example. So this isn't unusual by any means. It will be different. I think you will see, players probably choose to live in different areas of the county.
So the NBA starts tonight. The Jazz will get going tomorrow. We've been pretty football-centric so far, of course, college and pro, but we'll lean into some of our NBA stuff. We're going to do our daily assist stuff starting next week. The Jazz are, let's see, there are three teams that have the worst odds to win a championship. It's the Wizards, it's the Nets, and the Jazz. The over-under is 19.5. So once again, we will not see a lot of winning basketball. Will we see things from the Jazz that will offer up a little bit of hope as far as what the future could hold?
Yeah, I think if you're a Jazz fan, your hope is that Ace Bailey pops, right? And then maybe you can get one of the other 6 or 7 players around him, who have been drafted in the last 3 drafts, to be a interesting role player. I think we're past the point where, Keontae develops into a star, or Isaiah Collier can be a star, or Kyle Filipowski's a star. I don't think these guys are future stars, but they could be nice players to have, and that's what you want to see. But Ace Bailey's different. Ace Bailey is a legitimate scoring wing, the likes of which the Jazz haven't had. Gosh, in a long time. You want to compare Donovan, but Donovan's a scoring guard, was always 6'1", 6'2". So I think he brings a different dimension and a different level of hope while still having like significant parts to work on in terms of his game and his personality. His maturity level, I think, is like he just is a kid and in some really exciting and fun ways. And also, it's going to be hard to play 82 games as a 19-year-old kid who just barely turned 19 and doesn't have some of that like professional maturity yet. So it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, if you're a Jazz fan, like that's the thing to watch for to see if he can be good.
Totally agree, because I think there's a lot to like. When I saw an injury report that referenced knee tendonitis, I just went, dude, he's 19.
I know.
I don't love that. I don't want to make a thing of it until it becomes a thing. But what's your understanding as far as the current status of his health?
Everyone is downplaying that. And I think it's probably true, right? Like even after the preseason game when he left, they didn't do imaging on it, is what I was told. But it is concerning that he was pained in both of his knees in a preseason game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, given that we have 82 left of these. So I think it will they will be a little bit cautious with this. He also just did have the flu this weekend, right?
Okay.
Like that's something Yusuf Nurkic talked about yesterday. That's something I, again, was told today. He did practice with the team today. It sounds like maybe on the minutes restriction or something like that, but likely to play in the opener tomorrow. You don't want to hear knee tendonitis in both knees as a young player, but it's not something that, frankly, you can kind of tell a little bit when the medical staff is really worried, when the team is really worried, just in the tone and tenor of how they talk about something. And I haven't felt that with Ace.
Good. All right, that's a good sign, because when I saw that, I went, nope, I don't like that at all. The starting five for the Utah Jazz opening night against the LA Clippers will be?
I think they continue to start Keontae. We're anticipating an injury update on Isaiah Collier soon, but concerned whether or not the hamstring injury will allow him to play tomorrow. And Keontae gives them more shooting kind of around everything else that I think makes some sense. I think Ace Bailey at the 2, even though he's kind of known as a 3 or a 4 in the high school and college days, like he's doing the role of a shooting guard in this Jazz offense, and I think makes a lot of sense for what he does and also who else the Jazz have around him. And then at the forward spots, Taylor Hendricks and Lauri Markkanen. I think there's a chance you go Kyle Filipowski instead, but Taylor's been playing 27 minutes a night in preseason, and I think is by far the best defensive option at that spot on the floor. So I think given the Jazz's desire to get better on that end, I think it's probably Taylor Hendricks, which is a pretty cool story for him.
And then, of course,
And
Walker
Kessler
at center.
at center.
If Isaiah is healthy, does Keontae come off the bench?
I don't know.
Okay.
Given how rough Isaiah was in Summer League, that may have been usurped for now. I do think they want to give Keontae like maybe one last chance. And then frankly, like Walter Clayton Jr. is absolutely someone to watch for. He is older than both of those players and plays like it too. And coaches love responsibility from their point guards. And I don't know that you can argue that Keontae and Isaiah have that in the same way.
So I know the preseason for Walter wasn't great. I like him, though. I think there's more potential in his game than there is for either Keontae or Isaiah. That's the way I feel.
The only thing I worry about from the preseason is the shooting numbers,
Yep.
and that's a small sample, so I'm not that worried about it. We know from his college experience at Florida and everywhere else that he's a good shooter. The level of impact he makes defensively is so much greater than either Isaiah Collier or Keontae George. And again, if you want to start changing the culture of this Jazz defensive team, which has been last in the league twice in a row, you have to play good defenders, guys who give a darn on that end. And it just simply Walter Clayton shows a different level of defensive effort and defensive ability than Keontae George or Isaiah Collier do.
All right, before I set you loose, we got a Victor Olatunji brace. Our guy Pablo puts Big Phil Quinton in to kill the game, and then 1 minute later they equalize. So some nervous moments at the end of the St. Louis match. But in soccer, sometimes a draw is all you need. So give me your thoughts on the St. Louis match, what it was like to kind of watch that with anxiety, and your confidence level they can go up to Portland and get it done on Wednesday.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was the result they needed. Would not have been surprised to see it go either way, right? But I think they're in a good spot. Like, basically, Portland's not a good team right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a reason, RSL was able to win up there earlier in the summer. They have really struggled recently. RSL has not been a whole lot better, and look, their underlying metrics are not good at all, but they really could win this one, and then you've got a legitimate first-round matchup, right? So, yeah, like, I have moderate amounts of hope as an RSL fan that they can pull out a win. I think it'll be close. I think it'll be one goal either way. I don't think it'll be dominating, but, like, they're just as good as Portland is. The only kind of thing you might say in favor of Portland right now is just that they are at home. So, yeah, we'll see.
Moderate amounts of hope is more hope than you usually have, Andy. So that's good news.
The RSL has not always given me a lot to be hopeful for. In I don't know what the last 14 months. Is that fair to say?
No, it's very fair to say. Are you aware of the first team in MLS history to win MLS Cup while having a losing record entering the postseason?
I think we were both there.
We were both there. Yeah.
So yes, I am aware. They are the team as of this week that has the most losses going into a postseason berth. So
this is true.
Little column A, column B. We'll see what happens.
Is there any space in your heart and mind for a magical 2009 win MLS Cup? The 2009 team had 40 points. This one has 41. This team played a few more games. That's not a great comp. But how much space in your imagination is there for a magical run?
Nearly none. I mean, like,
okay,
just. MLS is better now than it used to be.
Yeah.
Like, right? Like,
yeah.
The other teams have Messi and Thomas Müller and, Son, right? Like, just.
Killer,
absolute, 20-plus million players,
yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And, that's why RSL played LAFC twice and got killed 4-1 each time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a gap in talent that RSL will not truly compete for championships until they address that.
I was about to set you loose, then my producer informs me you're sticking around.
Yes, sir.
It's great news for all of us.
More time.
I'm going to ask you to scoot that microphone over to my guy Clint, and we're going to catch a break before we catch up with Dave. But we have a very exciting, I'm actually told his headset is good, so thank you, my bad. We have a very exciting guest in studio, the winner of the America First Credit Union contest to be my co-host. Clint is live in studio. How are you, Clint?
Good, Spence. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for stopping by the show today. Congratulations on winning the contest.
Thank you very much. I only entered one time, so I can't believe I even won the thing.
So, Clint, I hope I'm not saying anything out of turn here, but you are a blind sports fan, so you listen to a lot of sports, yeah?
I do. I listen to Bill and Scott every football game, and yes, I love the Utes.
Well, this is a big treat for me to have you in studio. I want to say thank you for listening. And what's it like just to be able to listen without being able to see the action? Is that a challenge?
I don't think so, because I lost my sight when I was around 12.
Okay.
And I'm 56 now, so I'm an old son of a gun. But no, and Bill does a great. TV sucks compared to radio.
Yeah.
But Bill does a great job painting great pictures and yeah, it's not that big of a deal.
I think it's awesome that you listen and you're invested and you cheer and you enjoy it. So what was it like listening? Unfortunately, BYU was on the right side of things. What was it like listening to the Holy War on Saturday?
It was very frustrating. But, a great game. But, yeah, very frustrating. I really was hoping we were going to pull this one off.
You have a great story about stepping on Scott Mitchell's foot that you need to tell our listeners, please.
I do. I went to school at the University of Utah when I was 19 years old, and I could see better back then. For instance, when I walked down a sidewalk, I could see both sides of the grass on the sidewalk, so I kind of know where to turn. And if I was in a hallway at a school, I'd look up at the ceiling to see where the lights turn to know when I have to turn in the hallway. Well, I was at the annex building. I don't think it's even around anymore. And Scott Mitchell was reading a book, sitting on the floor with his legs stretched out far, and I was looking at the ceiling, looking where to turn the light to turn in the hallway, and I stepped on his leg. I stepped on his knee, and he said, "What, are you blind?" And I said, "Yeah."
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was kind of a funny, because back in the day, I should have left this part out. I was very embarrassed about being blind, so I never used a cane. So it was my fault for even trying to walk around the school.
Well, Scott could have been nicer. I mean, if we're honest, Scott could have been kinder about that interaction.
He was a stud, and his knee was taped too, so I'm sure I didn't help him out very much.
Well, it ended up just fine for him, so no worries there. So are you a lifelong Ute fan, born and raised cheering for the Utes?
Yep. I had the great privilege when I was going to school at the U. I got a hold of Coach McBride and asked him if I could do a motivational speech for his team. And after I did that one speech for his team, he had me go there about 3 or 4 years in a row. And I'll tell you, I did some speeches the night before a football game, and I did some speeches the day of the football game. And I'll tell you, the power that Coach McBride has the day of a game is scary. I mean, he is so intense.
I'm sure. Do you still do motivational speaking?
I do, not as much as I used to. I substitute teach at Cypress High School, and I used to coach wrestling for about 30 years, but I hung that up about 5 years ago.
Okay, where can people go if somebody wants to have you out to give a motivational speech? Where can they find you, Clint?
Oh gosh, I guess just my email, clint@clint-lewis.com. I know it's a whole mouthful. I also want to let you know, if it's okay, I gig every Tuesday at the Barbary Coast Saloon on Taco Tuesday, and I play guitar and sing from 7 to 10. And I also play at the Break Sports Grill in West Valley every first Friday of the month. And I know that's a lot to remember, but just to throw it out there just in case.
No, that's very cool. Well, look, you're very inspirational. This has been a pleasure. Thank you for rolling in the studio, and thank you for listening to ESPN 700, okay?
Thank you, Spence.
All right, Clint, the winner of our America First Credit Union contest, to be my co-host for a segment. We're also sending him to see the Utah-Colorado game, and we're going to give him $250 to spend at the Utah Red Zone store. Speaking of America First Credit Union, my guy Dave is live in studio once again. What's up, Dave? How are you, buddy?
Well, I just feel so good that we're talking about Utah. It's therapeutic.
Yes, it is. After a rough weekend for Ute fans, but it is a football game. We have more important things to do with our lives, so you just kind of have to move on. And
there is tomorrow.
Take your lumps. It's a zero-sum game. That's what sports is. Ted Lasso taught us it is the hope that kills you, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's get into this cool offer you have for people that are not members of America First. It's a $100 membership offer.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why people would want to choose to move a financial institution, and one of the things that prevents them from doing that is just, I don't want to move all my direct deposits. I don't want to move my bill pay, or I guess I can just put up with the pain, and that's tough. That's tough for our members, and so we want to make it an easy choice for them. Help walk them through the process, but we also, have an incentive to do that. And so members want to come in any consumers want to come in and open up an account, then we'll give them $100, no strings attached. And that's a good benefit, just to come and try us out, see how good we are. Great locations all across the Wasatch Front into Utah, great mobile apps, great service, just good products and services, good rates.
I'm also seeing that you're, in addition to the $100 new member offer, you're offering $50 for teens and kids as well.
Yeah, Spence, it's never too early to start teaching your kids about how to manage their finances.
For sure.
When you put cash in their pocket, that cash is gone. And kids love to save when they know how to do it. And so when you give them an account and you can link it to your account, if you want to transfer some money there, you can see how they're spending their money. That's helpful. And it's just empowers them to be smart with that money, and they can get what they call a funds card, which is a teen debit card. That doesn't get them into trouble, but allows them to spend that money that's in their account responsibly.
Yeah.
And so we have a $50 offer for the kids.
So tell me, why you guys? Why America First Credit Union? Because during the break, I told you, and I'll leave the name of the institution off air. I told you of a horror story I had when I was with, I'll just say, one of the big dogs.
Yeah.
And I could not get customer service. When I finally got somebody to sit down with me, they basically told me I was crazy, even though I had the paper trail proving that they made the mistake. And I walked out of that bank and I changed banks. And it's one of the large national banks that exists here that people use. So I'm sure there are plenty of listeners that aren't thrilled with their current banking situation and would like to make a change for a situation that actually meets their needs. Why you guys, Dave?
Yeah, we hear that story quite a bit where people get a little uncomfortable, even painfully uncomfortable with their big national bank, and that's tough. We've been around for 86 years, started with humble beginnings, and we hold true to that philosophy that started them. It's people helping people. And whatever we do, we want to make sure it's in the best interest of the member. And so whether it's location or whether it's products, whether it's interest rates, prices, that's important to people. And we want to make sure that we provide you what you want. And, Spence, when you say my bank, that's kind of an entity. It's a whole. Mm-hmm. But when members of the Credit Union of America First talk about the credit union, they say my branch. That's my branch. And we love that ownership. We love to own that member relationship. We love that they own us. And that's mutually beneficial. And so there's pride in that. And you see that every time they walk in. Oh, that's my branch. Oh, that's who always helps me. Yeah. And you form a relationship with those people who are taking care of your money. That's different than just a name on a building or on a card. It's meaningful for them.
And as far as my branch goes, you have branch locations all over the place, yeah?
Yeah. We are the largest credit union in the state of Utah. And nationally, we're ranked. And so we have that power of a national institution, but the touch of a local institution. And so we just pride ourselves in that.
So join today. The $100 bonus is only here for a limited time. Visit your nearest America First Credit Union branch or go online to open your account. You can experience the difference of having your money work harder for you at America First Credit Union. To see all the details on this offer and more, go to americafirst.com. Dave, you're the man.
Thanks so much.
We'll catch a break. More with Andy. Look at us. Bonus Andy Larson today. And then we'll bring in Blaine Fowler. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program. We'll say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. See, classic Billy Joel is always good vibes. We can play classic Billy Joel. Going to bring in Blaine Fowler, our friend from BYU TV, coming up in just a little bit to kind of break down his portion of what he saw with Utah BYU, what's next for both teams. The last time BYU rolled into town and beat Utah last year, they lost the next two games they played. But we get bonus Andy Larson today on a Tuesday afternoon when the NBA opens. Since you were at Utah BYU, let me ask you a couple more questions about that because, of course, people are very interested. Have you seen enough from BYU to believe, like, yeah, okay, the data's in. This is a really, really good football team?
I would say I'm pretty convinced they're a really, really good football team. I'm not super convinced that they're an elite football team, and I think that's why you see the odds makers see them as underdogs, even against Iowa State, even as a 7-0 team, right? Like, I don't think Iowa State is like an amazing Big 12 opponent. I think, again, they're up there contending for it, as will BYU. I think BYU has a legitimate chance at a college football playoff spot. I do think that there are still some weaknesses, right? Like, you know, we haven't really seen them air out the ball against, like, top P4 competition, right? Bear Bachmeier certainly was incredible, still is a true freshman. You still kind of wonder about, you know, the consistency of performances. And you know, so I think there's a lot of great stuff, and it's certainly better than nearly every prognosticator had them coming into the year. But, yeah, you know, are they an elite team? I don't know that I totally buy that 100% yet.
You know what's interesting is if we move away from the AP poll and the coaches poll, and honestly we probably should, Bill Conley, friend of the show, he does his SP Plus rankings, which is intended to be predictive and forward-facing. Right now in the S&P Plus, Utah is 14 and BYU is 20, even though BYU is undefeated. And then if you move over to the Football Power Index, the FPI, Utah is at 15 and BYU is at 19. So when you dig into deeper metrics, basically the Andy Larsons of college football, the analytics actually still think Utah overall is a better football team.
Well, and, you know, I made this point and got killed, and fairly so, on social media, but, like, Utah did outgain the Cougars in that game, right? Like, they did have more yards overall, and yes, some of it came on that last drive in a 10-point game where you're playing prevent defense. And but I do think we saw BYU struggle to move the ball at times, you know, especially in the third quarter in that game. And yeah, you know, and you had to go to overtime in order to beat Arizona. You know, it feels a little bit like last year where, you know, what's the saying that good teams win, great teams cover, and we've seen, you know, I guess we've seen the Cougars cover against the Utes, but not necessarily win by multiple scores again against the best team. So I think that, to me, is still what's to be determined. Now, I will say, like, if you just do kind of like the eye test analytics, if you will, like I'm talking about the Pro Football Focus kind of grade stuff, BYU does grade out really well in those. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's going to be interesting, you know, but they just haven't dominated opponents in the way that you would expect, you know, one of the best teams in college football to, because they probably aren't quite that.
You know what? Excuse me. You know what I don't miss? You don't know.
No.
I do not miss tweeting during rivalry week and during the Utah BYU game. Once upon a time, I very much believed that was a big part of this job, and now I very much believe that it is not. And I got sideways with both fan bases on multiple occasions during that game and during that week, both Utah and BYU. You went to Westminster, so you're able to kind of be neutral here. Which of the two fan bases do you feel like is, as far as the vitriol that you get, if you tweet out a Utah thing, what's it like when BYU fans come at you? If you tweet out a BYU thing, and look, both fan bases have their lunatics, and this game brings out the crazies. But which fan base, if there is one, stands out over the other?
I think BYU fans, and maybe this is just kind of like their opinion of a solid Tribune writer, I feel like BYU fans feel like you're evil, whereas Utah fans feel like you're dumb.
I like that.
And it's just very different, right? Like, so like it, and you know, you and I both know this. It's not like everybody in the fandom, in the fan base. You can't, you know, characterize a fan base by its worst people. But I will say that college football fans react very differently to Twitter and tweets and things they don't like than Jazz fans do. And
Yeah.
I'm not really quite sure why that is. I wonder if you have a theory, but like, maybe it's just 82 games. Maybe it's just that, hey, you know, you got to take this in stride. Maybe I think NBA Twitter is bigger than college football Twitter in terms of just like national voices coming. Maybe you've heard some, you know, negative things about your team before in a way that local college football teams haven't. I don't know what it is, but and maybe it just is a religious experience like it may be for BYU and Utah fans. But for whatever reason, it is very different college football fans than NBA and Jazz fans.
I think the last point you made is the most accurate point because my experience has always been the same. My interactions, and I am a former social media addict in recovery, so I'm really not on there much anymore. But when I was, my back and forth with most Jazz fans was good. Now, I've had some very public things happen in my life, so everybody throws that at me no matter who you are. That's just the default. If I say something you don't like, then you send me, you know, the things. And they all do that, everybody. The college football fandom does feel more like a religion to me. The college football fans, and I think a lot of this comes down to a couple things. And then if you add on the fact that there are certain portion of BYU fans that actually think it's a religion because of the nature of the church-owned school, and a lot of BYU fans believe in the outcome of the game is predicated on their behavior, their moral behavior, as a lot of them have said before, that exacerbates their approach about you being evil if you don't support their belief system because they tie their belief system into their football team. Not all of them, but some of them, which is wild to me. And then, yes, on the Utah side, it is more of like you're dumb, not you're immoral, but you're an idiot. But a lot of people met their spouse in college. A lot of people have their social group that I do. All my friends to this day in this state are the guys I met when I was at the University of Utah. So there's more of like a loyalty to a college team. I mean, maybe some people met their spouse at the Jazz or whatever, but you're tied to your college in a more personal way than you're tied to your pro team. And that's why I think there's a more defensive, instant, stand up for my school, stand up for my people, stand up for my team in college than there is in the pros.
That's a really interesting idea, and I think that makes a lot of sense to me. The other thing I'll say is, like, our youth writer, Jason Pataki, who you've had on the show and does a really great job, comes from Oklahoma, right? Mm-hmm. And covered the OU for the OU Daily and knows a lot of those writers. What I think is really interesting about Utah fans in particular, and I'll say this, the state of Utah fans, is when the Utes or Cougars are having a mediocre or bad season, a lot of those fans will tune out. And we see this in our Tribune metrics, we see this on social media metrics, we see this on TV ratings. Whereas when Texas and Oklahoma lose, that increases those guys' views, page views, clicks, ratings, what have you.
That's interesting.
And so you would expect for such a dedicated fan base, to have who loves their team to that degree, to that they'll pull out whatever against people on social media, to be dedicated in all sorts of their fandom, and it just hasn't, for whatever reason, the state of Utah fans seem different than those in other places.
That's very, very interesting. I was unaware of that dynamic because there's this thing that we call in this platform, in this medium. And the thing I love about radio, juxtaposed to the written word or juxtaposed to television, is the intimacy of the medium. People will spend 4 hours of their day listening to their favorite radio show. Hopefully it's this one. And hello, thank you, how are you? And what's interesting is if I come across a listener that listens to the majority of my show every day, he talks to me as if I'm his friend. He talks to me as if we know each other because he's heard me tell stories about Connor. He's heard me tell stories about Duke, my dog in studio. He's heard me tell stories about my life, right? You don't get that with writing and TV. TV, if I go do a hit with Dave Fox like you do sometimes, it's 5 to 7 minutes. And we don't get into anything personal. And I don't think I've ever had a personal moment with Dave Fox anyway. I have no idea who he is. I just know that he has 2 Emmys and 2 Pelotons. You don't get to know the TV guys. I don't think you get to know your side of things because, you're writing about the game. People are sitting down to read about the game. And you've had pieces where you've took an intimate approach, where you've told stories about some travels here or there. But one of the things I love about this medium, and I'm sure you've experienced this because you've been doing it for a while, if you're spending an afternoon with a radio host, you think you know them. And so when I meet people, I love it. It's really, really cool because I'll hear stories like a guy came up to me like last month, and he said, I just have to say thank you to you because my father passed away last year, and our favorite thing to do was they worked. It was a family-owned business. Our favorite thing to do was drive home from work together and turn on your show. And oftentimes you would have interviews that we loved so much, we'd sit in the driveway and listen to them together. You know, and it's stuff like that that's really cool about this medium. And I don't know if that changes the vitriol or venom you get from people. But I think when it comes to what you do with the Trib, you reference this because of the propaganda that so many people are fed and how their thoughts are co-opted by cognitive dissonance and echo chambers. If they see that you have the Trib on your header, they're instantly going to think of you a certain way because of the way our political climate is in our country right now.
Yeah, and, I think that's something that, you take in stride. And I was presenting at a University of Utah college class recently, and one of the questions I got was, how do you deal with that kind of feedback, right? Yeah. I think the first few times that happens, you are struck, you are taken aback, you suffer, and then, you learn that it is part of the job that people are not usually attacking you, but it is something else that they want to make their voice heard about. And, that's not to say that one of my favorite sayings is sometimes the haters have good points, look,
sure.
if
Absolutely.
there are 10 people in my mentions that are saying the same thing about how I screwed up, maybe I did screw up in that way, and maybe I do need to look in the mirror, and I try to make myself better in that way. But for more, most of it is about something else. And, I think there's a flip side to that too, where, you mentioned the connection you get with your audience. I think that happens a little bit too through kind of my longer articles and social media. But I always find it really interesting at how people, when they come up to meet me, they don't want to hear any more of me. They want to tell me about their lives and what their connection is, right? And I think that's really cool. So opening up the two-way street, that's one of the things that I would miss if I left social media and kind of disconnected in the way that you largely have, is that connection, the possibility of connecting with people in that good way, that because I don't have that replacement of you that you do of 4 hours on the radio.
Yeah. And one of the things that, because I haven't disconnected because of people saying mean things. I haven't disconnected because of any sort of positive or negative feedback. I've disconnected because the algorithms have changed. And I've disconnected because the algorithms are designed to divide us. And they're designed to show you things that they know that you're going to hate. So you get back online and then you send a hate message to somebody else, and suddenly we're divided and we're going at each other because there's this entrepreneurship of hate and outrage right now. And Elon Musk is one of them. And Mark Zuckerberg is another, because their algorithms are simply designed to divide us because they know that the divisiveness will lead to more interaction and engagement and more money. And when I watched the Tristan Harris documentary about, the social dilemma, it changed my viewpoint. But I wanted to ask, like you said, kind of the journey you went through. And look, if you're going to be in a public front-facing space like you and I are, part of the deal is you're going to get people to say really, really rude things about you. That's just part of the deal. So for me, kind of like you initially, was just like, dude, why are you taking time out of your day to do this? And then you get leathery skin, and at this point, I can tell you what you're going to say about me before you're going to say it. It's the same 4 to 5 things. I've heard it a million times. But what I've always found fascinating, I want to tell me if you've had the same experience. There have been a few, probably 4 to 5 social media mob attacks on me, like serious mob attacks, where I felt like in my seat, everyone in Utah is mad at me. Everyone in Utah hates me. I cannot leave my home. And then I do, and nothing happens. And then a couple of different times, like I referenced back in the day during, some of the college football stuff, some of the heat I got, there was one specific social media mob that came at me about a college football tweet, and I was terrified to go to the game. I'm like, I'm staying at home. But I had to go to the game because I had an assignment to do some pregame radio.
Right.
So I went to the game, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk through the tailgate. And what happened was 5 different people came up to me and apologized for what they tweeted at me. And and one of them was like, "Hey, will you follow me?" I'm like, "No, dude." Nobody in real life said the things they were saying to me online. And in fact, 5 different people came up and said, "I'm so glad you're here. Heated moment last night. I'm really sorry for what I said." As far as going from online to real life, what has that experience been like for you?
Yeah, like when you are in person, you get the opportunity to share and listen in a way that just the minutes of gap in between social media make that impossible, right? Like on social media, rightly or wrongly, and especially on Twitter, right? Like you're trying to get your points out kind of as quickly and as succinctly as possible. But that means that you are losing nuance. You're losing the ability to listen. You're losing the, like counterpoints and softness that happens in real conversation. And yeah, so then when you do meet people and have conversations with them, like generally it's really positive. Now, I will say like one troubling trend like I've seen is and I don't know that this is a political point, but like this seems to be happening more in person where people are more confrontational in real life, that they see real life as an extension of social media, and that's really scary.
Yeah,
but for the most part, like you're totally right, where you see someone's humanity in real life in a way that is impossible on social.
Yeah, and that has been my experience in real life, which I always say Twitter's not real life. Social media is not real life. Now, to your point, there are certain people that are taking it into the real world, and that's where violence happens, and that's terrifying. That's a horrible, horrible trend. Have you seen Twitter change? Because that's the other thing for me. I mean, I can remember how cool I thought it was during the early years of NBA Twitter, where like, yeah, I can interact with all of these media members and maybe sometimes a player or a coach or whatever. And now it feels mostly a cesspool full of hate and divisiveness.
I guess what else, like for me, and I have my job in large part because of Twitter. I was a blogger who got an audience because of social media through blogs and Twitter, right?
Yeah,
and growing a following. And I think, so I owe Twitter and that experience my career, my livelihood. What I think has changed, and it's less, certainly the political spectrum has flipped. There's no doubt about it. But I think just like the decision to put paid responses higher than those of regular people, because then, as you kind of mentioned, then those people then get paid for the amount of clicks they get, and therefore are kind of incentivized to be as eye-popping and eye-catching as possible, means that it's harder to have conversations there. And, I had so many interesting conversations about, like, Ty Corbin's coaching and Al Jefferson's defense, and it was. I don't want to lie. Like early Jazz Twitter, Ty Corbin Twitter was combative, but also there was a lot more back and forth and a lot more, opinions from frankly real people.
Yeah.
And so that's what I miss is kind of the community conversations that used to happen on that platform that I just don't see happening at all now.
Do they happen anywhere online? So
I've seen some good stuff on Reddit. Honestly,
Reddit, okay,
and again, that's a little bit political spectrum coded, but like, it's hard. It just is. I think so much of this is. I think text is now a little bit out of vogue. Is part of a problem, where it is Instagram Reels and TikTok Reels and YouTube Shorts, and it's more of a one-way communication street than it has been. Maybe Twitch is the answer to that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my DMs are still open, and so I get DMs all the time. And one of the things I like about DMs is I can, you just made the same joke about me that everybody. Okay, I can ignore you because you're going to send me this picture and you're going to send me this mistake and you're going to say this about how I was okay. And then I can find one that's like, hey, dude, you said this on the show today, and I thought it was interesting. Here's my opinion. And those are the ones that we go back and forth, and they always end up being awesome. So direct messages has kind of been a solution. The text thing is interesting because I don't feel like anything ever very healthy is accomplished over text messages. Like if you have an emotional thing to talk about with someone you care about in your life, you go talk to them. You pick up the phone or you drive to their house and you sit down and you speak to them. Because texting leaves so many things open for misinterpretation. Like you didn't put an exclamation point on your text, so you're mad at me.
Right.
Or where's the emoji? Oh, no smiley face? Not like, no, if you have something, and now we're just getting into giving people advice, but I truly believe if there's anything important and emotional that you need to talk about with someone who's important in your life, don't text them about it. Say, where are you? Can I come over? Or do you have 10 minutes to get on the phone?
So my bad for breaking up with my last girlfriend over text.
Yes, Andy.
Yeah. No, I agreed.
You didn't. You did you?
No, I mean, it was more complicated than that. But anyway.
Andy.
This was at least 5 years ago now.
I don't care when it was. You owe that girl an apology. All right. We just did 20 minutes on social media.
Great. That's why on the day before Jazz training camp, or Jazz, the season opener, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good conversation, though.
Yeah, no, I appreciate your space doing it. But before I say you lose, make tomorrow night interesting. Jazz Clippers opening night. What are you watching out for?
Yeah, I mean, I'm, again, watching for Ace Bailey, watching to see if this Jazz team can defend. I think this is going to be a really good Clipper team, right? Like, you just look at the depth. You've got John Collins coming back, making his first appearance back with the Jazz. He's been coming off the bench for them in preseason. That'll be kind of interesting to see how he, what role he plays with that team. But I think it should be a good matchup. The Jazz generally play well in their home openers. And this early season stretch for them includes some winnable games, like against Sacramento and Portland. So I do think like there will be some excitement and interest while everyone's healthy and ready to go.
Do we see a John Collins tribute video?
Yeah, right. Like everyone gets a tribute video now.
How many minutes does Kevin Love play?
0.
How many minutes does Yusuf Nurkic play?
13. Gets all of the backup center minutes behind Walker Kessler.
Is that enough minutes for people to be okay without yelling that the vets are getting too many minutes?
Depends how many Kyle Anderson gets.
Fair
and
enough.
George Niang. And, because you want to see Kyle Filipowski instead of those guys. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Play all the young kids. You know how I feel about it. Hey, great to see you, my man. We'll chat soon, okay? Andy Larson from the Salt Lake Tribune. Fake news. Just kidding. All right. We will bring in Blaine Fowler coming up on the other side of a quick break. But my guy Dave from America First Credit Union is live in studio. Dave, what's up, man?
Well, I just gave Andy a Pez, and I brought your Pez for you.
Oh, this is my second Pez in 2 days. Tell our listeners about this little unique dynamic about you.
I've been collecting Pez for almost 30 years. I have a nice little collection of dispensers, and I just found that Pez is just a fun way just to meet people and to reiterate a relationship, and it's kind of my thing before I go on air. Camera guys get it, sound guys get it, producers get it. It's just we're now Pez pals.
I have no idea if there's anything here. I'm just going to ask you, is there money in this? Do you have, like, valuable Pez's unopened that you could sell in, like, 20 years for a bunch of money?
That's not how I roll.
Okay, I'm just wondering.
I set them free. They're displayed.
I was thinking about Steve Carell in 40-Year-Old Virgin where he collected all the characters and then sold them all for $100,000. But no, this is just like a human-to-human connection thing.
Yeah, you come to my house, you're just going to walk in and it'll stop you in your tracks, and you'll go, what on earth is that?
Wait. So you actively display several Pez dispensers.
I have a Pez room.
How does this land with your significant other?
When we bought our house in Bountiful, as we were looking at different houses, I walked in and I saw this room and I went, oh, and she goes, over my dead body. And she's put up with that since 2002.
Hey, it could be worse. We all have our thing. If Pez is the worst thing,
Pretty
Dave,
harmless.
I think you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
All right, America First Credit Union, been in the studio. We discussed this last segment, but let's get into detail. Now, I'm a father, so are you, and I found it very important to try to teach my son about how money worked when he was young, meaning a teenager, and you have a really cool way that parents can help their kids learn about money.
Yeah, I think you open up them a youth account, and right now we have a great offer that they get $50 just for opening that youth account, but teach them about saving. Teach them about spending. Smart saving really is smart spending. If you spend more than you make, you're always going to be in the hole. And so teaching them just how to use their money is going to be so beneficial for them in their later years when they're going to college, when they're getting married, and you'll get them out of the house really for real rather than have them keep coming back. And so those skills are just so important. So opening up an account with them, teaching them all the different types of accounts they can get, a teen debit card, a funds card, learning how to use like a dedicated savings or certificates is so smart. And if you want to gift your kids or your grandkids an account, that's also a smart way. Start them out early, even before they even know what money is. Get them an account, put a little bit of money in there so that when they are of age to learn about money, they've already got, a little nest egg there.
I would imagine there are guardrails in place to make sure that your teen isn't just spending willy-nilly.
Oh, yeah. That teen funds card doesn't have a limit that you can go into. You're really just spending just what you have in your checking account.
Okay.
There's guardrails. Parents can, attach their account to theirs, and you can, transfer money, see where they're spending their money, help them out, and that's really a parent's job and responsibility, is to teach them how to be responsible.
100%. All right. Before we end this hit, just why America First Credit Union? What makes you guys different?
America First is just an awesome organization. I've been there almost 27 years, and I firmly believe that we really, truly have our members' best interest at heart. We want to help our members get their money working for them. How can they do more with that? So educating them, providing them with the good resources, with good online services, good security. The trust that we have with our members is so crucial, and we want to instill that's part of that relationship. That relationship with you and your money and with your financial institution is so important. So we want to reiterate that every time that we have an interaction. Good service, good products, good trust.
Guys, don't wait. This $50 back-to-school bonus is only available for a limited time. You should stop by your nearest branch with your student to open both accounts or start the process online today. Also giving $100 for new members, $50 for the kids as well. Give your kids a financial head start and a lesson in money management they can use for life. Go to americafirst.com for more information. americafirst.com/deals for the new member offers. We'll welcome in Ryan from the Dish Pros. Give them a call at 801-424-DISH. If you're a sports fan and you do not have Dish, you're doing it wrong. You can also save a bunch of money on internet. What's going on, Ryan?
We've got this deal just for a little bit longer. Guys, you want to call and take advantage of this awesome offer with Dish. 2 years of credits. Price is guaranteed not to change. We're going to throw in Dish's top package, over 440 channels, free for the next 3 months. Plus, we'll also throw in Showtime, Paramount Plus, and the NFL Red Zone free for the next 4 months. Great opportunity to lower your bill. If you saw your cable or your DirecTV bill went up 10%, guys, pay 10, 20% less than what you're currently paying when you switch to Dish right now. Plus, you get a bigger DVR, more features, all the streaming apps built in, and it'll auto-record your games and auto-hop commercials. Call us up today, 424-DISH. Ask about our internet solutions that we have, too. We've got a whole bunch of great internet offers right now. Prices as low as $20, $50 a month, right in that range. So if you're spending more than $70, guys, it's worth it to call. We can save you a whole bunch of cash. You just got to call 424-DISH. It's 801-424-3474.
There he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. Blaine Fowler from BYU TV will stop by after a quick break. Keep it here on ESPN 700. Is this the song that Horatio Sands and the Billy Joel cover band actually performed in Step Brothers? This is the song, isn't it?
I do know it's among them. Yes.
80s Joel, which is the worst Joel. Porter is torturing all of us today. I feel like our next guest might like himself some Billy Joel. Blaine Fowler, BYU TV. Billy Joel, thumbs up or thumbs down, Blaine?
Can you grow up in New York and not have Billy Joel as like your favorite artist?
No, that's fair. That's fair. Little known fact, Blaine is also a New York guy. Blaine, do people know that about you?
Most people don't know. Like, people that have known me for a long time know that I grew up there. But Brenda and I just were back home. I don't know. Here's home now. We've lived here for so many years. But home where I grew up is New York, right? So growing up back there, Billy Joel was big time. And a few years ago, Brenda and I went and saw him in Madison Square Garden at his Christmas concert.
Oh, nice.
And I'm not sure there's a better venue to go watch Billy Joel than in Madison Square Garden. He was just at the piano. You know, I had a band there too, but just ad-libbing. Like, he would throw in a Christmas carol that he would stylize like only Billy Joel can. And even though his voice is a little more grovelly and a little lower now, that dude he is the piano man. He can play the piano, just anything, and make it sound amazing. We just walked out of there with smiles on our faces and like, how nostalgic and cool was that?
Yeah, no, I've seen him a bunch, a couple of times at MSG. You're not wrong, and I promise I won't do this the entire interview. But for Ute fans, the last time they beat BYU, it's the longest time. I'm not going to do that all interview. That's one Billy Joel reference. I promise I will not lean into that. But Blaine, I do want to talk about the game. But before we do that, last year when BYU beat Utah here in Salt Lake, the Monday after, I said on the show, it feels like the tide is starting to turn. After Saturday, my show on Monday, I said, well, it feels like the tide has turned. And it does feel like, at least for now, the preeminent football program in our state is about 40 miles south of our studio. How has this happened?
Well, Utah had a big advantage, and you and I have talked about this over the years. When Utah left to go to the Pac and BYU was left in independence, it just was a huge recruiting advantage. Kids that, when they were both in the old Mountain West or in the old WAC together that BYU regularly got, they stopped getting because BYU couldn't promise the kids they were going to be on a national stage or they were going to play against the best talent or, all of those things. And Utah had a huge advantage, and they had an advantage in resources where they could upgrade their facilities. And so they had a recruiting advantage, and they had more talent. And during that 9-year run for Utah, at the beginning of that run, it felt like, hey, Utah's just better at almost every position on the field, like talent-wise. When I would go through, get to the middle season when you really know who the guys are out there, I go, gosh, like Utah's better at 18 of the 22 positions on the starting offense and defense out there. So, and not only that, they have better depth. Then there came a point toward the end of that run where BYU was getting closer, and you were saying, wow, BYU's matching up a lot better. It's kind of like 50-50 on the starting lineups now. So from a starting lineup perspective, they're matching up. But if BYU gets a couple guys hurt, the drop-off is just so dramatic that they can't compete. That's why Utah's a big-time program, because not only are they good, but they have depth. Now you give Kalani the resources, the exposure, and the recruiting advantage of being in the Big 12. And right now, their recruiting class for next year is number one in the Big 12. Like, it's the number one recruiting class. And they have been able to get a lot of those kids back. They've been winning more of those, not only against Utah, but Stanford, kind of where they've gone. They've been getting those kids that have been going to Stanford. They've even got some Oregon kids now. They're in this program, and young kids are playing really, really well. Before even going into this game, I went, oh, wow. BYU's better in the starting 22 at like 16 positions right now over Utah. So they're more talented than Utah is. And they have as much or more depth than Utah has. And so it has turned. BYU is where Utah was at the beginning of that run in terms of the talent. Both teams are extremely well coached, right? So that's a wash. And I don't know that changes when they're in the same conference together and BYU's got hey, we haven't lost to this team since back in 2000, was it 21, I guess? And so we've got 3 in a row on them. And, oh, by the way, we competed for a conference championship last year and fell a little short. Now, the rest of the season can have a huge impact. If they go win double digits again this year, and let's say perhaps they play in the conference championship game, it's not going to really be easy for Utah to compete from the recruiting front moving forward from that. And the rich just get richer when that's happening. So that's kind of how it's morphed over the years. And Utah has a huge advantage. And when the field is level, then BYU gets a lot of these local kids, and they get a lot of LDS kids from around the country that were going to Utah, and they're not anymore.
The last time Utah beat BYU, Blaine, was actually 2019. So it's three it's 3 straight for BYU, but it's 6 years now since that happened.
Yeah.
You know, so this is a streak. This is not a moment in time. This is a trend. It's not back-to-back or one fluky game here or there. I know you work for BYU TV, but one of the things I've always appreciated about you is your ability to see things clearly and be a truth teller. How does Utah swing it back to their side? I mean, what needs to happen for this thing to go back the other way, in your opinion?
They've got to be lights out and have the kind of toughness that we've seen from them in past years, defensively especially. They're not quite as physical as they've been defensively, and so they got to evaluate who they're getting. Because I still feel like Utah's got enough of a reputation from the run in the Pac-12 to go get kids. But they're going to have to maybe not rely on going head-to-head and being able to beat BYU, but go find other kids, whether it's in California or Texas where they have some ties. They had some ties in Florida. They're going to have to find kids that fit that mold, because if Morgan's the guy in waiting, that's their style. That's how they win. When they just beat people to a pulp defensively where you cannot run the football on them, and then you try to throw it, they put so much pressure on you, the quarterbacks throw bad throws, and they are in the top 5 every year in turnover margin. That's the formula for them to be at the top of this league. But it can't depend on them winning all the head-to-head battles against the same kids that BYU's recruiting, right? They're gonna have to expand their net a little bit, bring in their type of player, and these are good coaches, right? Absolutely good coaches. Morgan's a phenomenal coach. They can get back to that. And then, man, they've got to find a quarterback that can be a franchise guy at some point, right? Because the teams that win consistently have really good quarterback play, and it's really, really good, consistent quarterback play. And Dampier's a crazy talent. He's in essence a running back playing quarterback, but there's risk with that. I'm hearing he's hobbled after this last week's game. When you play that style of offense where you play your quarterback and you run him, and he's I have a little bit of that fear with Bear, although I think Bear is he's gonna get better as a thrower and eventually be like Bear reminds me more, not style wise, but early in Steve Young's career is just running all over the place, right? And then he settled in. So I'm not talking the comparison of talent, but Bear's running all over the place because he's really young right now. But I think he settles in and he becomes a regular old, I can run it when I need to. I can get things. I can get us a first down when I need to, but I'm not going to go run the ball 14 times a game. I can function in a West Coast offense and throw the football 25 or 30 times a game and carry this team. He's going to become that. That's not who Dampier is. And I think to be really good consistently over time, you have to have those kinds of quarterbacks, not ones that you rely on running all over the place, because those guys get hurt, and then there's a big drop-off. So I think they have to maybe philosophically think about what they want to do at the quarterback position. And then – because that team is really good up front on the offensive line this year. But if Dampier's hurt, there's a huge drop-off at quarterback for them right now. And they almost have to change the offense because they have an offense built just for him. So that's just a few thoughts. They got to get back to being dominating. They need to be a top 5 defensive team if they're going to compete. And they're capable of that. But they have to cast a wider net in recruiting now.
It's interesting you brought up Steve. He had him on the show, and he told, this was a couple of years ago, he told me the wildest story about the dynamic you just outlined. He basically said he didn't learn to throw the football until he got to San Francisco. He didn't learn to really become like a dynamic elite thrower because he became the most accurate quarterback at one point in NFL history. And he didn't, in his own words, didn't feel like he actually had that dialed in entirely until he was a San Francisco 49er. So to your point about Bear, where's he at right now? Is the back shoulder fade to Chase was an elite throw. That was an elite NFL throw. But where is he at with his progression to become an elite thrower to match his athletic ability?
He's one of the best looking freshmen I've seen. Not so much for what his skill set is. It's his mentality. I keep every week I raise my eyebrows at something he does on the field where I go, okay. You just don't see a freshman even think to do that. I'm going to give you an example in the Utah game, 2 examples in the Utah game. Remember he was going to get sacked, and he covered up the ball with 2 hands to ensure that nobody stripped him. And he used that 230-something pound frame. I know he's listed at 225, but can we just admit he's like 235, right? With huge lower body and strong. He's kind of built like a real bear. Not, you know what I mean? He's built like a bear.
Yeah, he's a big kid.
Yeah, so now he gets out of the grasp. What freshman do you know that's playing in in the first half, well, now I guess they're past half, of his first college football season says, I'm outside the tackle box. I don't even have to throw it to anybody. I can throw it right-handed. I just need to get it past the line of scrimmage, or we're going to go back to the line of scrimmage and start over again. You see freshmen fumble that or throw it into coverage. The bonus on that was he got rid of it, and then, of course, Lander, I don't know what he was thinking, because it was late and targeting, and now he's got to set up the first half Colorado game, which is a shame. He raises the entire level of the defense for Utah with his play, and he makes a play that takes him out of it. It's almost like he was so frustrated at that point in the game that he did something out of character, right? But back to the point about Bear, I watched it and I'm like, okay, that's not something a freshman does, right? That's not something he does. The throw to Chase on the touchdown throw in that game, a freshman would probably throw that to the back pylon trying to give Chase a jump ball. He recognized that the receiver was covered full-on man-to-man, and the defensive back was a little bit trailing. So the direct back of the defensive back's head was facing him. So he thought, oh, he can't make a play on the ball if I throw this thing in flat. So he throws a laser right past his ear hole right into Chase for a touchdown. You just don't see freshmen determine that in that quick a processing speed and get the ball out exactly where it's supposed to be with that kind of throw. So he does some things mentally that you see juniors do. And then he's a really strong kid. He's got great instincts of where to run the football. He has a very good arm. He's very accurate and has touch. So the sky's the limit for this kid, because the thing that usually holds up young players and their development is the lack of processing speed and decision-making for their first couple of years. He's just so far ahead on that. That's the thing I'm most impressed with him about. So he can be really good at BYU in that offense with that mindset.
So analytics have often been hotly debated as it pertains to what their role is in decision-making of front offices and coaching staffs, and they permeated into the world of Major League Baseball in the late 80s, and they started to move over into basketball kind of in the 90s, and now they're everywhere, and it's a fool's errand to pretend they're not important, and it's a fool's errand to not utilize the metrics at your disposal. I was very surprised to hear from Witt, of all people, just to lean into that as opposed to maybe zigging when the numbers say you should zag. My assertion is if an analytical approach is going to work against Arizona on Saturday afternoon in Salt Lake, okay, but do you really do it if you're in Provo against BYU when the potential of a fourth down conversion failing leads to the crowd going crazy? And then you're leaving points on the board when points were going to be at a premium. So, of course, that's been a big talking point up here, Blaine. But what did you make of the approach? And to be fair, Utah was the number 1 team in the country at converting third and fourth downs prior to the BYU game. So I get it. And it's not just the play. It's not just the decision. It's then the play call. Then it's the players executing. But it was a failure, 1 for 5. What did you make of the approach of Utah to be as aggressive as they were on Saturday night?
I mean, the only thing is they stayed who they have been, right? But I'm going to go back to something you said, which I think is right on the money, Spence, and that is there are games where the analytics don't mean quite as much, right? In a sterile environment, which is the analytics are in a sterile environment, like they put all of the numbers in, but what the analytics don't have is any ability to feel the momentum of a football game. And you and I know that in a rivalry game, momentum, it just changes everything. Like Utah's had teams way better than BYU, close game. BYU's had teams way more talented than Utah, close game. And that's all about momentum and emotion and all of that. So I think you should be using analytics this way anyhow, but more so in a game like this where emotion plays such a huge role in what you're doing. You look at the analytics and you go, okay, this, because the analytics is probabilities. A probability to get this is this. And there's a lot more than that goes into that. And then you have to say, but the risk is greater here because if we don't get it in this environment on the road in this game, it's like not getting it times 5. So I think we should kick and take the points here. That's how I think you have to approach it. Even interestingly, because Kalani's been asked a bunch of times in the last couple of days about their decision to throw the ball on that 4th down at the end of the game instead of just kicking and extending that lead to 2 scores, right? Or to 2 touchdowns instead of just a touchdown and a field goal. And same thing goes there. Now, I think Kalani's thinking was, because the analytics told him to go for it. And here's what goes into analytics that people don't even think about. It's so much more than just this is your probability of getting it. Thrown in there is if you score here, the probability that Utah wins at this point is 0, right? If you score the touchdown, it's 0, right? If you kick a field goal here, Utah's probability of winning goes to 70, or not even that. The probability of winning goes to 42% or something like that, or 38%. If you go for it and you don't get it, the probability is still 38, right? So that when all of that goes into it, you go, well, geez, we might as well go for it because kicking in the field goal doesn't give us any higher probability to seal this game than not kicking it and failing. There's still the chance of them winning the game is slim to none. If we make this right now as a touchdown, they literally have 0% chance to win this game. So let's go for it. That's all that goes into analytics, but you just got like a chart, almost like an Excel spreadsheet that tells you all of that boiled down into one thing. And then if you think about it that way, then you're like, oh, yeah, then they probably should have gone for it, right? But again, in my heart of heart, I'm like, no, this game is crazy. This is just the kind of game where a team recovers 2 onside kicks and does score twice, right? It's like, so I would feel way more comfortable with a 2-touchdown lead rather than a touchdown and a field goal lead, even though it's under 3 minutes and they've had to use all their timeouts. That's what I probably would have overruled the analytics. Even though when you talk through it, it probably makes sense that they went for it. So I think at every game the head coach has to think about momentum, and the analytics are a tool to help them with that. And then analytics can be trumped by the feel for the game and the momentum of the game and the emotion of the game by the head coach. And in this game, probably both head coaches should have thought a little bit more about that than they did.
I've had 3 guests now, and this is only my second show of the week, say they believe that the aggressive approach and the overall approach of the coaching staff indicated to them that this was Kyle's last game coaching against BYU. Do you believe that to be true?
I thought this was Kyle's last season to begin the season.
Yeah.
And I don't know that what happens has an impact on that in this game or any other game. I think like he may have retired at the end of last year, and I don't know this. When Kyle and I talk, we talk about family, how his mom's doing, which I need to get up and see Nancy this week. Brendan and I were just talking about that. So that's what we talk about. Or Kyle called me a few weeks back and had a former player that he thought was awesome and he wanted me to help get a job. That's what Kyle and I talk about. I don't ever put on him, hey, is this your last year? Even though we've lived together, right? And we're old roommates and I love him. So I just want to make sure people understand. As close as I am to him, I don't ask him that question ever, right? I just assumed that he if they had a great winning season and won the Big 12 last year, I think he would have walked out and just become a consultant. I thought he wanted to run this thing back one more year because he felt like injuries and circumstances made it so that they couldn't really accomplish what they wanted to, and he didn't want to leave on that note. But I don't know that he does that again if things don't work out the way they wanted to. And this is still a good football team. Hey, you're in the middle of the season. The rivalry game is in the middle of the season. They still have a lot to play for, and this thing is still up in the air. The worst thing that could happen is they go out and tank against the Colorado team that's on the rise right now. And so I don't know that this game dictates that, or really any game dictates that. And I don't know that even if they tank down the stretch and they have a losing season, I don't know that he goes, hey, I'm going to run it back one more year. Because Morgan's this coach in waiting. How long do you stay the coach in waiting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was a really long answer, Spencer. I don't think this game impacted it or any of the games this year impact what he's going to do at the end of the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree. All right, Blaine. Well, I always appreciate the time. Man, it was compelling stuff Saturday nights, and we'll see if BYU can keep it rolling. Thank you, my friend.
You bet. Always good to talk to you, brother.
All right, Blaine Fowler, BYU TV. Dave, America First Credit Union, live in studio. Dave, how are you, sir?
So good. It's been such a joy to be here with you, Spence.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's been fun to get to know you guys over at America First Credit Union. You are the official credit union of the University of Utah.
Yes.
We are the home of the Utes. So maybe we have some Ute fan listeners that aren't necessarily thrilled with their current banking situation. Why should they make the switch?
Well, I think there's a lot of pride that you should have in your pocket, and that should extend to your not only the cards that you use, but the branches that you go to and your online banking. And so we've got a great deal for members to come and try us, but we try and take that service to the next level, making sure that people feel confident in where they're getting their services. There's a lot of great locations right around University of Utah. That Salt Lake Metro branch is awesome. There's some up on Foothill, and there's just really good branches around there. And so location, I think, is important for students and for our members. And so we try and put those locations in convenient spots for them to access. But the power and the difference of the credit union philosophy is so big, and I think America First does it right.
What are the perks that you guys give Utah fans that have that University of Utah Visa debit card?
Yeah, it's such a pretty card. That white and crimson card, first of all, just looks really nice. Mm-hmm. To show your pride is just really cool. But you get to have some special offers. Getting in early to some of those games, use it up there at the Crimson Club at the store and get some merchandise or get your snacks. It's just really good to have. We love supporting all of the University of Utah athletics. We've been supporters of them for quite some time. So we love having Swoop come out, and we've given money for him for his tuition so that he has the ability to go to school. We support the Utes with Wings programs, which is now called Empower Her. We are also we entered into a naming rights agreement, 10-year agreement with America First Ballpark. So the baseball guys get to have a new facility, and that's going to be opening up soon. We're super excited for that. We just love supporting athletics and the families and the individuals and the students that go up there, whether it be through scholarships or other donations. We just love to be able to support them.
Before I say you loose, outline the offers you have for new members, people that are going to make the change. What can you do for them today?
Yeah, it's a great time to be able to join the credit union. You can, click, call, or come on in. Go to AmericaFirst.com. But when you join right now, we have a $100 offer. No strings attached. You just get it. Come in and open up a savings account, checking account. We'll give you $100. If you've got some kids around the house that are, minors, we have a $50 youth account offer as well. Then come on in and open up an account and teach them how to spend and how to save their money.
It's a great time to do it. If you're looking to make a change, maybe you're not thrilled with your current banking situation, consider our friends at America First Credit Union. Go to AmericaFirst.com for more information. Dave, you're the man.
Hey, thanks so much, Spence.
All right, let's welcome in Ryan from the Dish Pros. You can save money on internet solutions. You can also save money while making the switch to Dish. What's going on, Ryan?
You can, and guys, we have so many customers that have saved not just a few dollars, but we're talking thousands of dollars with a simple phone call. Call us up today. Take advantage of the offer right now with Dish. Only a few more days left with this promotion where you get a 2-year promotional price. The price is guaranteed not to change for the next 2 years, which is huge because everybody raises their rates, but it won't happen to you again for the next 2 years. Plus, we'll throw in Dish's top package because that alone is worth almost $450. So you get that package free for the next 3 months, plus we'll throw in Showtime, Paramount Plus, and the NFL Red Zone free for the next 4 months for the rest of the season. So call us today. Take advantage of the offer. Lower your bill. Get the biggest, fastest DVR out there. 16 tuners. Auto records your locals. Auto records your team's games. Plus, it'll even auto hop commercial breaks. And it's integrated with all the streaming now. Take advantage of the deal. You get the best TV experience for the very best price with the Dish Professionals. Plus, I'll throw in dinner at JCW's. Call, too, about internet options because we have a ton of solutions there. I might have 2 or 3 for you. Call us, 424-DISH, 801-424-3474.
All right, there he is, Ryan from the Dish Pros. We'll catch a break. We'll get to the 5 o'clock hour of the program, which includes Chris Comrani. We'll say goodnight at 6 right here on ESPN 700. All righty, let's get it. Drive at 5 time, 5 o'clock hour of the program on a Tuesday afternoon. Gets going right now. It's a lovely day. We've had some really nice weather during this October stretch, nice little fall weather stretch. The weather will drop a little bit coming up this weekend, although Saturday's forecast looks okay. So hopefully for Utah, Colorado, we do not have to bring our rain gear. About 65 degrees is the high on Saturday. Kickoff is at 8:15, so it's going to be a late kick. It'll be cold no matter what. Will Devin Dampier be under center for Utah football? Or will it be the true freshman Bird Ficklin? No official word on that just yet. We will get the availability report for that game coming up tomorrow, the first one. Kyle is not necessarily overly transparent with that, as we've learned. But there you go. We'll keep you up to date if anything comes down in that direction. Utah Mammoth are in action tonight. They're taking on Colorado at 8 o'clock. The Avalanche in town. Big game. That game is on ESPN. The NBA is back tonight. Pro basketball officially begins this evening with the Rockets and the Thunder. Tip-off there is just in about 20 minutes. And then your late-night game is the Warriors and the Lakers. Don't forget, when we say goodnight, the Kyle Whittingham Coaches Show comes your way. Bill Riley, Coach Witt, will discuss the loss to BYU. The game coming up against Colorado on Saturday night, where Utah finds themselves as a 13.5-point favorite. Joined in studio by a very special guest, the Utah Jazz begin their action tomorrow. And if you're a Jazz fan, you should support your team with an America First Credit Union Utah Jazz Visa debit card, the limited edition Jazz Affinity card. And, Dave, you guys have done a bang-up job. It's a beautiful design. Tell our listeners about it.
It's sleek. I love the purple. I love the enhanced logo. It's just super stellar. It's a really nice card. All your personal information is on the back, so that front is reserved for that nice logo, that nice finished look. It just looks really good. We've been doing these affinity cards, limited edition affinity cards, since 2021. So this is our fourth card doing that, and it looks really good. But what I like about it is it's packed with a lot of different deals, discounts, and offers and opportunities. When you get that card, you can link it to your Jazz app. When you're doing your in-app purchases, you get 10% discount off of some of the concessions. You can get a 15% discount on merch. You take your family to the game. You want to get in a little bit early. You can get in 30 minutes earlier before anybody else. We also have this new offer where we have America First Friday offers, and this is brand new this year, where the Jazz will send you an email on that first Friday every month, and it will be maybe a ticket offer or some merchandise offer, and I love that. There's other concert offers and just other events, those pre-sale events that you can get early in on some of those deals, and so it's just a great card to have in your wallet. It looks good, it feels good, you can show your pride, but it's packed and loaded with lots of different features.
And last year, I think we were a Walker Kessler block away from a triple-double.
Yeah.
So this year, that streak is ending, and what happens for members when that streak comes to an end this year?
Not if, Spence, but when.
Yes.
Yeah, when that triple-double happens, then the next day you can get 32% off of store merchandise. That's a huge, huge deal.
It's a massive discount.
So we should all be cheering for that.
Let's get an Ace Bailey triple-double, Walker, Lowry. There's some good candidates this year.
Yeah.
We'll have to see if it goes down.
I'm hoping it's an ace because that just sounds cool.
Yeah, that does sound, and he's a good player. I just hope he can stay healthy because he is a special talent. All right, away from just the Jazz-specific card, call to action for new members, people that are listening to the show right now and might not be thrilled with their current banking situation. Why America First?
America First, we've been around for 86 years, and we started with 59 original members, and they had a dream and a vision to say, how do we do things better? How do we help people do more with their money? And so they came together, they pulled their resources together, and they said, let's do it right. And we've continued that tradition and that legacy, I think, for the last 86 years. Everything that we do, all of the decisions that we make, we always have our members in mind. How do we benefit the community? How do we provide the best products, the best services, the best rates? How do we provide the best financial education for our members? How do we help them and their family situation? And so come check out America First. We have a great offer that's going on right now, a $100 offer. Come in and open up a savings and a checking account. Get $100 free. No strings attached. Just come try us out. Visit us at americafirst.com. Come into one of our convenient locations and just come see what we can do for you.
Love it. Well, Dave, it's been a pleasure. I'm going to let you go play some pickleball, okay?
All right, I'm in.
All right, americafirst.com for more information. We will catch a quick break and bring in Chris Camerani coming up on the other side right here on ESPN 700. And again, my opinion, which is always humble, my humble opinion is the best Billy Joel song.
Okay. Not awfully familiar with like the whole Billy Joel discography. I'm not Britton Covey.
Oh, I forgot that Covey loves Billy Joel. That is so on brand.
So I'll have to dive in a little bit before I give you like a breakdown. Good song, though.
Excellent song. Isaiah Collier will not play tomorrow night, and Ace Bailey is listed as questionable as the Utah Jazz will open things up. I'll tell you, man, we've been so football-centric that I have a lot of work to do to prepare for basketball season.
Yes.
Does the start of the NBA season move the needle for you?
It does. But like you, up until then, like up until literally, not even today, but like in a few hours, whenever tip-off is, I am 100% checked out on basketball, respectfully. Basketball never sleeps, but I don't pay attention to it during the summer and fall. So that's just the reality, but that doesn't mean we're not ready for it. It's a season that I don't think should be entirely exciting for the Jazz, but we should learn quite a bit. So,
Kyle Whittingham Coach's Show comes your way coming up on the other side. It looks like Caleb Lomu and Trey Reynolds will be the players. Of course, Bill will have that for you. I would imagine they'll talk about, BYU, Utah. And then coming up with Colorado in town on Saturday night. No official word on Devin Dampier's availability for that game. Coach Witt alluded to the potential of Bird Ficklin starting at quarterback. Bird has completed every single pass he has attempted so far this year, 9 for 9. A lot of Bird's production has come in junk time, and Colorado is a team that, even though they're not who they were a year ago, this is a big game for Utah to show the community that they have bounced back after the rough loss against BYU last Saturday. So not a big-time crowded night of sports. You do get an NBA doubleheader. Just for NBA fans out there, this is going to be a little bit of a juggling act for you if you want to watch all these games this year. Tonight is on NBC and Peacock. Rockets Thunder going on right now, and then the later game will be the Warriors and the Lakers. Then the Jazz take on the Clippers tomorrow, and away we go. A little basketball. The Mammoth are in action tonight against the Avs. And then tomorrow night, it's do or die time for RSLs. They're going to take on Portland at 8:30. So tomorrow night will be super, super busy. All right, Porter, before we get out of here, what comes our way on a Wednesday edition of the show?
Following his appearance on the Kyle Whittingham Coach's Show, we'll chat with one Bill Riley halfway through our work week. Our friends from Sumer Sports were kind enough to push back off of a Tuesday. We'll talk college football and some pro football with them on a Wednesday. Hey, how about Richard Smitty Smith talking some hoops on the day of NBA basketball getting going? And Smitty's down in St. George for a little golf, so we'll get a preview of that. Speaking of the Black Desert Resort, Patrick Manning stops by one day ahead of PGA Tour golf in Utah.
PGA Tour will descend upon our state for a tournament down at Black Desert, so that should be a fun weekend for you golf fans out there. We will say goodnight. And a special thank you today to Chris Kamrani, Stevenson Sylvester, Blaine Fowler, and Andy Larson, our friend Dave from America First Credit Union. For the sound from the show you may have missed today, go to the website, which is ESPN700sports.com. Download our mobile app. Take us on the go. That app is available in the App Store, the Google Play Store for free. And then finally, for what we do in our space for 4 hours every afternoon, please become a supporter of our podcast. We're available wherever you get your shows. Subscribe, rate, review, say nice things in the comments. Give us all the stars. It actually helps. Reporter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Tuesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Wednesday edition of The Drive. And as always, you can find that right here on ESPN 700.